Good evening and welcome to the District Advisory Board meeting for District 2 on Monday, September 11th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. We are in person and we also have folks joining us virtually. We will go ahead and get started. We do have a quorum, but we're anticipating a few more people from the District Advisory Board will be joining us. So we will go ahead and get started with the agenda and call the meeting to order. I'll let you all know that most of you are here for the agenda item number 9, and the Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department will make a report. And then anybody who wants to have 3 minutes to speak, you can just come to the podium. And I'll give you a reminder, but it is being recorded and it's also on Facebook Live, so keep that in mind. And anybody who comes to speak, when you come to the podium, we ask that you give your name and also your address for the public record. And if you can speak clearly and slowly so that Teresa, our lovely community service representative, can get the information, that would be great. So we'll go ahead and get going as fast as we can so we can get to this part so y'all can get on with your night. But the first thing that we always do is we do introductions of the District Advisory Board members, and we have some in person today and some virtual, and then a few more who are still going to join us throughout the course of the evening. So I'll be trying to watch when they pop in and make sure that they get acknowledged. So Jennifer, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. And Jennifer, one of the things that you know, and for the people who are here this evening that maybe you can't see, we start off with the District Advisory Board members telling us their name, what homeowners association or neighborhood association they represent, and their favorite thing about Wichita, and they can't repeat what someone else says. So Jennifer, would you start for us tonight?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jennifer McDonald, and I represent Dublin Court Neighborhood Association. And my favorite thing about Wichita today is Music Theater of Wichita. So they just wrapped up their season this past weekend with the Cats production. And they had 5 shows this year, and it's just phenomenal. So if you've never been to a Wichita music theater production, I would recommend it.
Thank you, Jennifer. Tracy, since you're virtual, would you go next?
Hi, good evening. Tracy Adams. I represent the Harrison Park community and Park Place neighborhood in particular. What I love about Wichita today is the changing of the seasons and the rain, because we so desperately needed the rain. So I certainly appreciate the changing of the seasons.
Thank you, and thank you both for joining us virtually. We appreciate it. We'll go ahead and start down here with Sam.
Okay, I'm Sam Lindeman. I represent the Bonnie Bray petition. And my favorite thing about Wichita, I think it's just the people of this area. They're just so easy to deal with. Good place to call home.
My name's Faith Martin. I represent the East Ridge Neighborhood Association. And right now, my favorite thing is the Independent Neighborhood Association. We just met some new neighbors at our last neighborhood association meeting that just moved to Wichita, and we're already gonna have dinner with them and show them around town. So I think it's really fun to go to your neighborhood association meeting and meet the people in Wichita and hang out and stuff with people in your town. So.
Good evening. My name is Tim Johnson. I represent the Willow Bend Homeowners Association. The thing that really has me excited this evening about Wichita is that Wichita State University's women's bowling team has now been designated as an NCAA sanctioned sport. Yes.
Awesome, thank you. And last but not least, thank you. We haven't seen you in a while, so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here. Chris Broderick. I represent Northbrook near 37th and Woodlawn. And Jennifer stole mine. I saw her Sunday afternoon at Cats, but the theater I always liked, but also most of you might not like, but I like the traffic cones around. It's a sign of progress for me and even smoother, easier transit through the city. So it's always a sign of progress.
Thank you. I always agree with you, Chris, but especially on that. Orange cones and crayons make me happy. It means progress. All right, so next on the agenda is approval of the agenda for September 11th, 2023. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda for this evening's meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. A second? Chris got it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion does carry unanimously. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from July tenth of 2023. I would hope everybody's had a chance to approve the minutes that Teresa prepared for us. I would entertain a motion to approve. So moved.
Second.
Second. And keep in mind, if you were in here, we'd ask for an abstention. So all those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next for public agenda, like I said, we're gonna not have our normal public agenda and do it all at one time on item number 9. So the next is board agenda updates, issues and reports, and Faith has asked if she could give a quick update. Faith.
So on top of this board, I also attend another board meeting. It is the Wichita Racial Profiling Citizen Advisory Board, and we have a workshop coming up September 26th. I don't know if you can bring that up real quick, but if you know anyone that's been impacted by a driver's license suspension or failure to pay fines and fees, this is a great opportunity for them. There was a bill that was passed in 2021 called SB 127. And basically, we are gonna have a workshop with Senator Elisa Fausto, Lindsey Black, will come down from Topeka, representing the Kansas Department of Revenue. We're gonna have, our chief of police there, our sheriff, our county sheriff will be there. We will have plenty of attorneys on site. Basically, we're gonna teach people how to fill out hardship applications, find out if they qualify, help them figure out the status of their license, talk to people about the walk-in docket. We will have at least 6 attorneys. We have more and more people that come to that every single year. Last time we had over 200 something people, and we had to turn people away. There's 40,000 people in Sedgwick County right now who only have their licenses suspended purely for failure, for not paying their fines. That's the only reason that we're suspended by the Kansas Department of Revenue. So if you know anybody that may qualify for this, it's a free workshop. It'll be at the Atwater Center this Saturday from 11 to 3, Saturday, September 16th. And the Atwater Center is at 2755 East 19th Street. And I hope that you share this information with somebody that you might need it. We'd love to have them there. It's 11 to 3.
And when is it?
Saturday, September 16th.
Okay, this coming Saturday. All right, thank you very much, Faith. Appreciate you sharing the information. We will then go to staff reports. Fire. I saw a fire car and I didn't see a firefighter here. All right, Teresa, can we just ask that maybe fire present some sort of written report and we'll include it in the minutes? Thank you very much. Next is Wichita Police Department. We knew they couldn't be here this evening, but they did provide us with 2 written reports, and those will be both added to the minutes. Next, Park and Rec. John.
Hello.
Hey, John, thanks for joining us this evening.
How you doing? John Sidwell, Recreation Supervisor at Boston Rec Center. Fall classes started today, so it's not too late still to sign up. We have a lot of classes that start throughout this session. You can get your hands on an Evolve guide at any rec center or library, or you can go to wichita.gov/park and rec and access the Evolve guide there. And then this coming Sunday, as you all probably know, we have Open Streets ICT running from 12 to 4 p.m. So Douglas will be closed down from Bluff to Glen. Please come out and experience all your local businesses that will be spread out there. Also, all the rec centers have put Scala TVs inside their facilities. So now when people enter the facilities, they can see kind of a mixture of different advertisements for different events, you know, for many of our programs. Then also for those that want to get that last fix of warm weather before it gets too cold, we have our last volleyball tournament, our Smash Sand Volleyball Tournament, Saturday, September 30th. And that runs from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that's pretty much the only update that I have for right now. I think, yeah, you guys got all the information on the Create campaign that is coming in as the lieutenant at Boston, but that should be all that I have for tonight.
Questions from the band members for John? Park and Rec? All
Say
right.
what?
I don't think we have any questions. It was someone's phone going off.
Okay, gotcha.
Gotcha. And I will see you on Sunday at Open Street. I'm gonna make some of the opening comments.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thank you for all you do. Appreciate it. Thanks, John.
Bye.
Right, library. Thank you for being here this evening. And just for the audience, in case you don't know, what makes the library, this library extremely unique? It's the only one that has a
Fireplace.
fireplace. So this is Santa's favorite library, is what we tell people.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Clary. I'm the manager here at the Rockwell Branch Library and going to share a few things going on in the library system this month. The favorite thing about Wichita though at the moment is all the varied food choices and restaurant choices we have in this city, and also the bike paths. I love the bike paths. So the Manhattan Short Film Festival is back. Join film lovers in more than 500 cities around the world to view 10 outstanding short films. Viewers will get a chance to vote for their favorite one. Films are not rated at this time and may not be suitable for all audiences. The festival is Friday, September 29th, and Saturday, September 30th, from 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., both days, at the Advanced Learning Library, 711 West 2nd Street in Atlanta. Wichita Public Library will be adding 3 new library cards to its collection for customers to choose from this winter. But first, residents will need to help design these new cards. Beginning August 31st and running until 5 p.m. Friday, October 27th, residents in 3 age categories: kids 5 to 12, teens 13 to 17, and adults 18 plus can submit their designs for new library cards. More information is available at wichitalibrary.org/card design. And finally, tonight, we have joined the Family Place Libraries Network. Families and caregivers of children aged 6 and under will enjoy new experiences at the Advanced Learning Library beginning September 14th. We are adding new programs, new services specifically for babies, toddlers, preschoolers, parents, and their caregivers. The first 3 years of life are the most important. They build on connections, skills that set the stage for learning when children enter school. We're providing special space, new resources, and educational opportunities to help parents and caregivers connect, discover, learn, and thrive with their child. Look for these activities located inside the Children's Pavilion at the Advanced Learning Library in 711 West 2nd Street down in Atlanta. Any questions for me?
Any questions?
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Always thank you for letting us borrow your space.
Very well.
Next, we have Public Works and Utilities Report, Paul Gunzelman. Paul, you know the drill. We'll have you introduce yourself and your favorite thing about Wichita. But I also would be remiss if I didn't say, Paul is already an extremely busy City of Wichita Public Works employee with 29 years of experience. And he has been here for about the last 6 months and also our interim city engineer. So he has been working 2 jobs for the last 6 months. Thank you for all we do, all you do. It's really appreciated. And thank you for your report tonight.
Appreciate that. And I'm Paul Gunzelman, the interim city engineer, and thanks all the key line. Progressive dinner as we get through. Next place, but and then we go through this. The update I have for you tonight, the 29th and Greenwich traffic signal. It looks to be completed, however, we are awaiting the installation of the control. We have a temporary controller in there now. It's still working on fixed time, so if you see any delays, please let us know and we'll adjust that. But once we get the new controller, then we can put it on the detection, so that would be improved. Please. Record improvements. The sidewalk has been completed now.
The next project will be the press box expansion. We are procuring the material at this time, and we will begin construction on that press box later this year after we have the lawsuit is complete. Pavement preservation's been ongoing throughout the city. A couple of them highlighting here, 13th Street, between Woodlawn and Governor, we have the pavement repairs are completed. We will come back in here later in October with an overlay. So that will smooth that out. We are currently working on pavement repairs on Woodlawn between 13th and 21st Street. Again, after that is completed, we'll do an overlay. Similar, if you get down to the south part of town, over the area, that has been completed. That overlay is done. We did pavement repairs for this year. So that's similar to what we'll be doing on Woodlawn as well. Brick crosswalk repairs, we have completed those. We did some at Lincoln and Woodlawn as well as Kellogg and Farmer. Then we'll be doing some localized repairs that will bid in September, start in October at those locations. The Redbud Path between Woodlawn and K96, we're under design on that with finish. They have provided us a preliminary traffic, drainage, and trailhead, possible locations for those. And we are evaluating the traffic counts now, looking at alternative crossings instead of at grade, at Rock Road, Webb Road, Greenwich, and Woodlawn. Specifically at Rock Road, we're looking at either an overpass or an underpass to go on Rock Road. The drainage will affect what we are doing at those locations. Webb Road and Greenwich, we can't do underpasses, but we're still evaluating either at grade or bridges, overpasses. We did receive some carbon reduction funding through our Wichita Area Metropolitan Planning Organization of $2.2 million for that project. We have an additional little over $4 million program in the capital improvement program. Split between years 25 and 26. So, we'll be continuing to work with Spanish for final design, conceptual design, and then we'll get 143rd Street between Harry and Kellogg. We are designing that roadway. That's to improve 143rd to a 3 or 5 lane section. I believe we are settling on a 5 lane section at this time based on traffic counts and future volumes. It will include pedestrian and bicycle facilities. We have funding in the capital improvement program. Just shy of $5 million in 2025. And we are coordinating those design improvements with the East Kellogg improvements, east of K96, as well as design, as well as how we will carry traffic through construction. And then citywide projects, the multimodal facility that will be located just west of Riverfront Stadium, that will replace the transit facility that is at William and Topeka. And we are anticipating final plans to be submitted this week. We will turn those over to MABCD for the interim review. If you guys any comments they have, we are open to open bids on the project later this year, with construction being completed probably June 2025. The K96 expansion, that is from Hillside to, in essence, Kellogg's. The expansion will be from Hillside down to 21st Street. And then pavement repair or pavement replacement south of 15th Street for East Kellogg Battalion, that project. There will be the second public open house that it is currently tentatively scheduled for November 9th, 2023. So once that date is finalized, I'll make sure that that is out there. I mentioned the East Kellogg improvements. I'll go back to K96. That project is being led by KDOT. The city has an interest in it because all of the interchanges will be reconstructed and all of the wood on it. So we have been closely involved with that project. Kellogg K96, the half mile east 159th Street, that is a KDOT project as well. We are in the midst of that. They had that field check on that project last week. And then we have some arterial streets that intersect that project. And with that, I will answer any questions you may have.
So for the plan for next year.
Oh, okay, great.
All of that is done, roads already been decided, so the paper.
We
Have to shoot for another year or.
We will, depends where you're looking at. We work with our folks to review those projects.
Okay.
And then I will be probably at the next quarterly meeting that we'll probably have 23 for yes.
I will just invite you to our neighborhood association.
Did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, where do you get your, most of your funding?
Part of that, so the arterial streets is local sales tax funded. Some of these, the freeway projects, well, K96, that does not have funding at this time. It will be, we have a KDOT process called local consult meetings. That it's in the, typically once it's in the design pipeline, pipeline, that we fund by KDOT. We do have a share in that. Between us and Central County, they wanted us to have. So we did, that is within the CIP that the council approved, most of the focus on tax funding. What's that?
Do you get any federal?
We do get federal funds, yes, that, in fact, I think the, yes, we did get some federal funding, yes, for projects. So we get that through our metropolitan funding organization. We applied for funds along with the other surrounding communities. If we were selected, we do get funds.
For example, East Kellogg, it's Butler County's contributing and contributing, Central County contributing, Wichita's contributing, and KDOT. It's also federal funding, so, yeah. So just an interesting side note, between K96 expansion, East Kellogg expansion, and the North Junction, it's $1 billion worth of infrastructure being invested in our community. And then we have the water treatment plant, and we have the BNR, the sewage treatment plant, which is another $1 billion worth of infrastructure. So did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, there's a, on 127th Street where Calamar tied into the street. There's been a void in the road for 2 years from the contractor, and I would expect that falls on you guys. And I'd like to see that fixed. Because it's gone on too long.
Yes, sir.
If I might add to that, going north on 127th Street, past Calamar, you go up to 29th Street, it's like riding a roller coaster. I don't know, I know there's a lot of people from
It is.
Hawthorne here. If you ever gone on that, speed limit's 40, but you really don't want to go 40. Because it's, like I said, it's like a roller coaster, and I didn't notice it on the notes there, but I thought I'd take this opportunity to mention that. I'm sure you don't get any complaints.
Right, well, and I have a follow-up question to that. So, because it's a newer road, right? And so it didn't start out that way. So do we have any recourse against the company that, lays the roads, like any type of warranty? Because I'm also seeing like in some areas where there are newer roads, but they're like prematurely starting to crumble. Especially as it meets the gutters.
I'm not even sure if that's actually county road up there. So I'd have to look, see who's even jurisdiction that would start, so let me check that out. Or township, yeah.
But I'm just curious to the other question though, like recourse,
So
when you have a vendor that goes in and lays it and it could be, that they didn't do it properly and that's why. Because it sounds like it costs a lot of money to raise.
We do have, I think our roads are, I think we have a warranty period of 2 years on ours, so we can't go back onto the contractor. So, yes, we do in our specifications, but I'd have to check with the township and like that.
That happened with the deleted by the
Yeah.
roundabout.
Yeah.
Not District 2, but.
To clarify, these roads are not built to the vendor's specifications. They're built to the city's specifications and inspected by city inspectors. So it's pretty difficult for a contractor to slip any kind of substandard work past the city. And that holds for any city or any county.
I have a quick question. That plan on 143rd from Kellogg to Harry, that's gonna go from 2 lanes to 5. Do you have, where can I see a copy of that plan? Is that anywhere that's laid out to be able to show how that's gonna affect the houses next to that road?
Not quite yet, but we will be coming to this district advisory board in the near future to present that off.
Okay,
So
because it'll
they
be, also have the bike paths.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, and we're doing the initial data gathering now, and that's part of, I think the numbers, current volumes, future volumes, are, moving us to the 5-lane roadway. There's a few bridges, across some drainage ditches that will probably have to be widened, to get the sidewalk and or the path, it's on the path, instead of putting a separate bridge.
Yeah.
We're evaluating that now as well. And then we are also, with that project, we will improve the area for the good intersections.
okay.
So, but we will be coming to at a future day with that concept plan, and we will have plan permission.
Okay, and then with all the improvements with the sewer and the water system that's happening right now, what do we anticipate as far as increases in water levels?
There won't be any impact.
No? That's awesome.
And as a matter of fact, we will be decreasing in the coming years. Yeah, so, there's not gonna be any increases in water rates for
That's good.
residential or industrial. So we were very lucky to be able to secure WIFIA loans from the federal government at an exceptionally low rate, and then state revolving loan at an exceptionally low rate. So because of that, really hard work within the city of Wichita Public Works Department, and then also utilizing our lobbyist at the federal and the state level, we are able to secure rates that will ensure that we don't have an increase. And we've
That's
already
great.
voted on that.
Because with the drought, this, and the wells drying up and people having to water their lawns, the rate, it's gotten pretty.
Well, and we want to make sure it, not just for residential, of course, but for industry,
Right.
because one of the things that can attract business and industry is if you have low utility rates.
Mhm.
And so the city water is something that we can control. So we've been really diligent about that.
Good, that's good.
I have an easy one.
All right.
The red bug path, that's between 13th and 21st, correct? Running east-west.
The red, but yes, it is along the old railroad corridor. So we've got it from downtown out to Woodlawn, and then we have it from K-96 east.
So 30 miles, and there's 3 miles right in the middle that aren't complete, and that's what we're trying to work on. So Paul, Pete Meitzner at the county and I have been working on this project for about 6 months now, hoping that maybe around this time next year, we'll be able to start moving some dirt.
And then from the Northbrook perspective, specifically the Woodlawn project, continue to work through you on questions, because that's a Bel Air project, not a city project.
You can reach out to me because I talk to Bel Air and Andover on a monthly basis.
I was just gonna add that that Red Bed Trail will actually go all the way to Augusta. It is in Augusta now, there is a gap where there needs to be an overpass over a river and another one over Kellogg. And that'll ultimately connect to the Prairie Sunset Trail and take you all the way out to Garden Point.
That's great.
We love living off of K-96 because it's wonderful. Whoever devised that and set it up, it's great.
We're gonna tear it up and make it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we will be expanding to 6 lanes. Maybe we'll, exchange that. Donate it to all right, Paul, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your servant leadership.
Thanks, sir.
All right, so next on the agenda, this is a new agenda item we wanted to add so that people could, we make sure we get a good update and then people can provide public comments. So thank you for everyone for today. So Tim from the Wichita Area Building and Construction Department is going to provide us with an update. Chris Labrum, who is the director of the project, unfortunately had a death in his family in town. So Tim graciously agreed to be here this evening. So Tim, thank you. So Tim, if you want to introduce yourself, your favorite thing about Wichita, and then I've asked you to give a staff report, and then we will have public comment after that. And what I expect is probably some engagement. And so if folks make public comments or have questions that you and I together can try to answer. So if you want to go first, Tim, and just kind of provide the framework, that would be great.
All right, I'm Tim Weinrich, MABCD. Favorite thing about Wichita is park accessibility. Now, the property was known the way it currently is, the build those apartments in 1999. So it's been a while since it was zoned that way. Plan review was submitted for the building in February of 2020. Permit was issued, initial permit was issued in June 2020. Permits are generally good for 180 days. As they do inspections, those permits are extended an additional 180 days. This process has gone on a long time, I agree. They have had some time where the permit went void. They paid additional fees to reopen the permits one time. The permit was getting ready to expire again at the end of August of this year. We re-engaged them first week of August. Talk to them about a timeline on when they thought they might start back. Based off the concerns we had, they hired a third-party engineer to go through and evaluate the building. At that point, the building was determined to still be structurally sound. It's not condemnable. There are some issues that have to be repaired based off that engineer's report. They currently have 60 days to work on those before we re-engage them again to discuss what their options are in that 60 days. Whether they're gonna open a new permit, request that we extend their initial permit to start working on it again, but they have started working on this week, addressing those issues that their engineer reported. I will be meeting this Wednesday with one of their product managers coming in to talk to us about where they are at this week with their current repairs. So there are some minor repairs. There's some concerns about the exterior, the zip board, the green board. It's typically not made to weather over more than 6 to 8 months. So we're trying to repair some of that, replace some of that. We're gonna have to tie back the entire building to take care of that issue. So which building are you talking about? 137, 1028, 430, 127. That's the eyesore. Because it's an eyesore and make it condemnable, unfortunately.
Did the city inspect that at all, or we're just relying on their engineer getting a report on it?
We're looking at their third-party engineer report. We looked at it initially, but then with our chief building inspector, we had some concerns, and based off those concerns, they hired a third-party engineer. Are your works there?
They did.
I don't know if it's funding, or they had other projects, they took on somebody.
that?
Somebody owns that.
If you do a simple Google search on Calamar construction, you'll see leads, lawsuits all over the country. Where they owe vendors, and they owe workers. This is a shoddy company.
Sir, if what we're gonna do, we have to follow the same procedure like we do it.
Sure, I understand.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna let Tim finish.
Well, yeah,
And then we're gonna ask if you wanna come up and provide up to 3 minutes, and Tim is gonna be our timer. And then you can ask questions, and Tim and I will try and navigate through that, but we're just gonna try and keep it really orderly. And that way also we can make sure that we get people in public record with Teresa
sure.
and make sure that everyone can be heard. Is that sound good to everybody, right?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so Tim, do you wanna finish
Pretty
your?
much done with my report, based off that third-party engineer report, it's not condemnable.
What about Bowl?
Sir,
There is
sir,
no mower
if you,
currently.
sir, if you don't mind, we're gonna follow the process,
Okay.
okay? Yep.
Okay.
So, Tim, I'm gonna ask you just a couple questions maybe to frame it up, okay? So we've talked about this a lot in the last year and a half, 2 years, right? So at this point, is the builder in compliance with all of their permits?
They are.
Are they in compliance with all of their inspections to date? So at this point, what the Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department is a joint venture with the city and the county, correct? So at this point, what can the Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department do?
We can't condemn them. We
Can't condemn the building, that's
tear the building
accurate.
down. We can keep working with them to get process going.
So what is the next deadline that they must reach?
We got 60 days from August 29th, so approximately October 29th.
So from now until October, I'm asking a lot of rhetorical questions I know the answer to, but I want to make sure he gets the information. So between now and about the end of October, they have some work that they have to get done.
Correct.
Then the next inspection will happen.
Correct.
If they aren't in compliance at that point, then what is the process?
Well, it's hard to condemn a building.
I'm not saying condemn, because that's probably not in the near
Next
future.
process, we'll be talking to them on how they. For a full new building permit, that's basically a fine for them. The papers and building sheets, it's so pretty hefty cost for a building permit on that magnitude of the building. So. We'll go down, look at the stuff where I can go from that.
So what we're gonna do next is I've asked a lot of questions. I want to give the district advisory board and Jennifer and Tracy, we're watching for you too. So, make sure that if you have questions and we don't see you with your hand up, that you give us a holler. Does anybody from the district advisory board have any questions? That's our normal procedure. So I just want to make sure that we're very consistent with how we normally run meetings.
I would say my only question is, we try to ensure whether it's resident or commercial, that everyone is following the same process and that we're following policies, and it sounds like you've already asked all those questions. So our next step is to hear from the community, so if no one else from the advisory board has questions, it seems like the community is.
I don't think, yeah,
Okay.
I got it. Chris has a question.
Can you confirm, I guess, that my biggest concern to all of this zoning stuff was always, Becky will know, is a communication footprint.
And I will say, this isn't a zoning issue.
Right.
We added this as a special agenda item for this evening. This property was actually zoned for this appropriate use of the land in 1999.
That's
So
what I
it's
just
been
wanted to
zoned,
go back
yeah.
and say.
So
that
there's
that
no
was-
zoning change tonight that's being
This
discussed.
type of construction was approved in 2019.
No, 1999.
1999.
So from this use of the land. So there's no zoning issue. This was just an opportunity for community members to come and get an update. In the,
But from the dating perspective, this has been zoned that way and
Since
the
1999.
construction just began at X amount of time and now we're at this point.
yes, so what happened is it sat there for a while and then construction began in around 2020. And then part of what they've said is because of the pandemic, due to construction, supply chain demand and workforce shortage.
Which
they-
is bogus. Bogus,
I-
exactly.
I'm just telling you what we were told. And so At this point, they're still in compliance with all of their. Okay.
But from a, I guess where I was getting at, is from a staff perspective, a city council perspective, we choose or have a voice in zoning,
Yes,
not construction timelines.
Exactly.
Capital, winners and losers, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah, this is just an update. No vote will be taken.
Thank you.
Police breaks up, sure, they have to tear
Okay.
it down.
Certainly.
Sure.
Now we'll go ahead and have public comment. And so Tim, you stay right close, okay? And if you want to speak, you can come to the podium and Tim will be our timekeeper. He's got his phone set for 3 minutes for each person. And if you want to just make sure that you state your name and your address for the record, and anyone can go ahead and start. Please come to the podium. So you have 3 minutes. So your name, your address, and 3 minutes.
My name is Aslam Park. I live at 13622 East Camden Chase.
And make sure you speak loud so we can all hear.
13622 East Camden Chase, very close to that eyesore that we're talking about right now. My question really is, first of all, what is city's responsibility as it concerns that building? In other words, is city responsible at all for some kind of schedule they gotta meet? And otherwise they are applying for it?
Yes. And so far, right now, as we mentioned, their next permit deadline, if you will, is about 2 months. It's for, well, it'll be the end of October, because it was in the end of August, so about the end of October.
But you're talking in increments, there's no overall plan when that thing is gonna be built.
No, it
That's
doesn't.
totally,
There's no overall timeline on any construction.
is that right?
That's right.
So city has no responsibility or no authority. So who made these laws?
That's actually part of state statute.
No,
I
no,
would say it's
that is the
city council.
problem. You know, I go by there every day, and everybody who lives there goes by, it's a nice school.
I know.
And nothing is going on there. I hardly see anything.
And I will make a comment, and I can say this 100 times, it's not lost, on me, and I'm very empathetic, and maybe CD staff knows this, but literally at this point, there is nothing the city.
Nothing can be done to accelerate that. That's my frustration.
We will be monitoring when their next permits are due and making sure that they are in compliance with those, then perhaps action can happen. But until the next deadline, they're in complete compliance. Fortunate or unfortunate, I completely understand.
There's a trade-off here. Tonight, you all want the city to do something to somebody to satisfy your problem, right? But tomorrow,
It's our
it could be
problem.
someone turning around and wanting you to do something about your problem. If we had these deadlines set in stone for construction, sometimes they're put into a development agreement. And a development agreement sits outside the laws for development. And things go south, sometimes due to mismanagement, sometimes due to things out of the developer's control. But to put a deadline on a development that is not agreed to and negotiated with the developer is creating a disincentive for developers to invest in our
Yes, we know what.
Okay. So we'll bring back,
Yes.
we have somebody.
We have.
If there is anything like this developer.
Okay.
Right.
If we can have everybody's attention, we have the next.
I
speaker who wants
agree.
to speak.
I agree with the frustration after.
And your name and your.
My name is Jessica Ball Dibble. I live at 2332 North Rosemont Court. And we've lived there for over 6 years. I'm a resident in Hawthorne. I'm also a real estate professional. We've sold over 50 houses in Hawthorne. It's important for me to mention that because professionally, I've really witnessed how this has impacted our community's home values. I've had clients cancel showings when they drive in our community and see what is this. It's much more than an eyesore. It's a huge question mark. What's going to happen here? What's the safety here? personally living there, being a mom who has 3 little kids running through there, I'm concerned of how it will be finished. And so what's so important to emphasize is not only is it an eyesore, but in the last 4 years, which is a lot of time to finish a project. And we don't want developers who take 4 years to finish an apartment building in Wichita because we have excellent construction companies. So hopefully that keeps them out of here. In those 4 years, we've had multiple police incidences that have had to come to the property because we have very questionable characters who are trespassing there. We've dealt with pranks of where people put signs on the property who say this is future migrant housing. We have had fire stations out there on site who have been called and told that there's a fire in the property. So all of that being said, there are many layers that are even more impactful than it just being an eyesore that we are concerned about. Has now hearing about a third-party inspector, it is slightly concerning of if this is an affiliation with Calamar. I think that me not being in construction, but all of us with our common sense can understand, as you said, 6 to 8 months of having party board exposed. You know, that's the lifespan of it, and we're looking at almost 4 years of that. So how does something in our crazy Kansas weather be exposed for nearly 4 years, and now we're going to enclose it? Being in the real estate market, we see lots of what we like to call them lipstick on a pig, of where they slap paint on and they cheaply finish it, and we're concerned of how that will look long term. This originally was a 55+ community. As of late, I have heard that's been lifted. So again, you know, that can be eased to us of, okay, it's not ideal to have an apartment complex butting up against us, but is it 55 and plus? I've heard now that has adjusted. Is it now going to be low income housing? So as a city council member, as an advocate for us, as we are active in our community, active as lovers of the Wichita community, we would just expect for you guys to stand up for us, stand up for this neighborhood, and see how there are many layers of this greatly impacting our area and the progress of the north path of development, especially.
Yep, so I can tell you regarding the low income housing, no one has reached out regarding our housing department. And for
Okay.
that to be considered low income housing, there would have to be some sort of agreement with housing. So that, there's a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation. Again, it's absolutely not what you want to hear, but at this point, there's nothing. They are in compliance at this point with everything that they are supposed to do. So they have their building permits, just like everybody else who has to build something, and they're in compliance.
Now seeing this, can you, as an advocate and representative of our community, create guidelines that will protect us should a new developer end up taking over this project? Should Calamar not be renewed in their permits? Will there be an interim of where now we've seen this a disaster? We've had 4 years of this. Now, can you step forward and say, now here are the guidelines that need to be happened? Should someone else now resume the project?
That would be unprecedented. Usually there's only development guidelines if the city is offering incentives, financial incentives that we have. I can't think of and you help me, Tim, you do this every day much more than I do, but I can't think of another project in the city where we, as an independent build, have put time guidelines.
If the city somehow had legal control of the property, the city could then recruit or ask for proposals, request for proposals from other developers to take it over. At which time they could negotiate some form of development agreement, which could address which is really what you're referencing when you say guidelines, because government is pretty much limited to persuasion and laws. And what the city doesn't have right now are laws that address this timeline and this exceptionally slow party development that's led to a degrading of the project, not just a slow project. it's possible that that could happen, but I don't know enough about this particular project, the details, the ownership.
Have you driven by it before?
I drive by it almost every day. I work in the city of Augusta. That's how I
Okay.
go to it from work.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I don't think anybody disagrees that it's an eyesore and then.
Well, and as I just emphasized, it's so much more beyond than the eyesore, so I appreciate
And
you.
the safety
I
concerns.
appreciate you empathizing with us, but as a representative, I was curious of what you could do for our community in seeing this disaster for 4 years.
And if there's anything I can do, I will. I mean, right now, at this point, I can't. I mean, we have to follow what the process is, what the guidelines are right now.
Have you experienced this before in our community of
Yeah.
something that's
There's
funding
other
up to
projects.
this residential in an area
There-
like
this
this?
is not the only one in Wichita right now. This is probably not even the longest span of one right now.
In the neighboring community?
It's not another one in District Two.
I've also experienced someone building their own homes that take years.
That's a little different, but I've seen that. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. Who's next? Please, sir.
Keith Wagner's my name, 2409 North Peckham Court. I live adjacent to this building. And you mentioned about what the city was doing for the permit. Did you adopt the new code when you made them pay more fees? Your code's changed in the last 2 or 3 years.
Didn't they have to go through plan review again when the permit went out?
No,
I believe you adopted to the 2019.
we got rid of the 2018 code.
You guys adopted the 20.
We haven't put it-
Okay.
But they, if you adopt that code, they'll have to go through plan review, correct?
I haven't looked at the code. I just-
But they, you typically adopt the code every 3 years, right?
So I guess they need to follow to me, they should have to update the code for the building if you're gonna mess with that permit. I wanna say that. There was an approach put on the east side of that property. There was for fire department access. It's not finished. There is a fire there. You're not gonna get a fire truck in there. So that needs to be addressed with the building department, because that, if you're gonna allow this to happen, you need to get this fire department access in to where we can protect this building, because I live that close. That hedgerow's gonna catch on fire. You said tieback on that building. Does that mean the windows are gonna be pulled and that tieback returns into the jams? It has to be done that way. So hopefully that's what you guys are gonna do. The building height was supposed to be 34 feet tall. Which I don't know, when plan review, I expect Richard Chamberlain has probably overseen this, but. I don't know where the 34 feet was adopted to, if that was adopted on 127th Street. Because it should have been adopted adjacent to our neighborhood, and it's way higher than 34 feet. That would be a zoning issue in my opinion. So I would like to know how plan review figured that 34 feet.
When would be done? I mean,
Yeah. It has
in
to,
twenty
because
eighteen, I know there was an amendment to the. I don't even know how it be.
that's the first I've heard of that.
Can you
So
speak out?
that's
We
what's
can hear you
back
back
here.
here. Sorry, not you, sorry.
So in 2000,
In
the land
2019, there was an amendment to the zoning. Or portion of that that allowed that building to go to 40 feet. As you talked there,
That's what's great, like,
So who approved that?
that's a decision like that.
3 minutes.
we need, you got interrupted. Do you have anything else to say, Mr.
I had
White?
a lot of stuff to say.
Yeah, can we yield time? Okay, you said that's someone yield an additional.
Be quiet.
Mr. Wagner, how about we let some other folks go, and then if they haven't addressed.
Well, hold
Yeah.
on, he's up there, let him talk. We've just had a gentleman yield 3 minutes.
Oh, everybody gets their 3 minutes, so there's not a limit,
So-
so if he still wants to speak, he sure can.
The foundation on the garages doesn't have a bond beam, the top course is block walls. So that means they had 4 cores every so many feet. There was no anchor set in that foundation. Everything's been drilled in. And I've spent 46 years in building commercial buildings. I worked 30 years with Dick Hartwell, which is no longer with us, and 30 years for an architect. There's stuff being done over there, that ain't right. Somebody needs to make sure things are done correctly, if you're gonna allow this to happen.
So Tim, would you address that, please?
I wasn't there during the inspection, so I'm not aware of it.
Okay.
So.
And I brought all this up to Brett, because I've known Brett forever. But he said his hands are tied.
Who is the chief inspector for
The
the?
building is designed for 55 and over as far as number of parking stalls. So we know that's gonna have to stay that way.
Yep. And no one has requested a zoning change. So as far as what was approved originally in 1999 and then updated in 2018 by the Metropolitan Planning Department, Area Planning Department. I talked to the director of MABCD a couple times a week and also MAPD, and no zoning change request has been made. So right now, we would anticipate, you are exactly right, with the 55.
And the roof, and I ran the figures tonight on the roof. They got vent ridge on the roof. You'd have to run 3/4 mile vent ridge on that building to make 300 square feet. 150 in the soffit and 150 in the ridge. And they ain't got it. So that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, they're gonna solve it on it. They're thinking-
But somebody needs to engineer that free air space in the attic section.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Okay.
Yes,
yes,
I
sir.
just got a text message from someone watching on Facebook, and when everyone in the audience is talking over each other, the virtual audience can't hear, and I know everyone would really like to speak. So if people could please be respectful of the person at the podium, then everyone that's watching online can also hear.
Yes, my name is Doug Goff. I live at 13617 East Camden Chase. And I see a lot of my neighbors here, and we all agree, I think there's one agreement that we've got a real problem. But I would like to throw out a challenge to the city to set some tough guidelines and some tough, goals for this contract. If they're not meeting. And that's.
And I
bottom line
share your
there.
frustration. I completely agree. But one thing that we have to be really careful of is we're trying to work with the developer. We really are. We've spoken with the folks in Kansas City. We've spoken with the folks on the East Coast. But we can't change we can't change the laws, if you will, the statute in the middle of it for them.
Exactly, but with all due respect, Tim, you mentioned about being friendly to contractors. I don't want contractors to say, oh, let's go to Wichita. Those folks are easy. We can do whatever we
That's a great
want.
point.
No, we need to have guidelines to protect our neighborhood. And the lady that spoke, it's the real estate agent, that really concerns me. That she's had people that when they see that, cancel the showing. Very concerned. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I'd like to lay down a challenge. Let's make it tough on them. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
And I just would like to, and thank you for your comments. I mean, we want to make sure that this project comes to fruition as quickly as it does. And in the long run, I'm hopeful and optimistic that it'll be done and done well, because this could provide more options for seniors in our community who want to live here and want to stay here and want to age in place. I think we all want the same thing. I think we're all frustrated by the time, the pace that this has happened, but I'm hopeful that we're gonna get this project through, get this project.
Because their excuse about manpower and supply chain issues. We've all seen the construction on 143rd Street and 21st Street. A facility that's much, much larger in scope. Go up in a very short amount of time, so.
Yeah.
Palomar is gaming the system. Period.
Right on.
Thank you.
Who's next?
See, that's why my question was, no, I have to finish that. Because you're not coming up with any kind of guidelines as to when they have to finish.
We are there, we have a permitting process, and right now they have all of their permits. So we do have a process right
You
now.
know when it's gonna be done?
When the project is gonna be done, I don't have the.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
because the process gets done in phases, that's how they permits.
Most get jobs and finishes.
But we don't require that of anyone. If you were gonna build a home, or Tim, or was gonna build a home in the city of Wichita, or a building, we don't have,
Otherwise, they
because
keep
it's
it-
private property.
They could leave it like this forever.
The government can't decide
Yeah, the
winners and losers on
That's right.
timelines.
That's right.
It's very
But
important.
there's some kind of reasonable limit to it. This was what, 1998?
That's when the permit, it didn't actually start construction
Understand all,
until
but
until
Plan
2020.
was there, thinking was there.
Yeah.
That long ago, and we are still not even.
I understand.
So the permit expires in October, not 29th.
Around that date, yes.
Can you not, could we get an attorney to represent the homeowners to not approve the city without?
Go through the process. I would back for, you know, without copies.
But my fear for that, and I've talked to the Chris, MABCD, if that were, the best possible solution is that this developer continue to move quickly. If we. I misspoke, but let's say that we said, okay, then we somehow work so that they don't have permits. The project then completely stops.
Well, then,
And then-
then something would happen there, it either
That
get
maybe-
sold or get demolished.
It won't get
What happened
demolished.
with their company in other cities?
It won't get demolished. The best case scenario in that case would be then potentially that somebody else would buy it, would acquire the property and continue, but that could also take quite a bit of time.
Well, but it would still be better because at least we could work with a reputable company probably versus a company that, you know, I mean, with the, that's the
And
only.
it's not
way it
really
looks like-
us work with them? or
Well, it's the permits
Just
that
a-
stop them.
It would
If they
just
don't
be
get permits for a project that is, as we already know, not being built correctly. And that they have, still continually having financial problems. It's better to just say, quit giving them the permit so that we can.
So Tim, if they in October 29th, right, then what's the next phase?
The only permit to start construction again, after they get the corrections made. But I walk away from it.
So let's say that between now and then miracles happen and they do everything they're supposed to do, then what happens?
The permit gets started.
And how long is that good for?
Permit, when it's issued, it's good for 180 days. As they get an inspection, it extends that with an additional 100.
Now, earlier you said you had to re-engage them, so are they proactively reaching out to renew these, or are you reaching out to get them?
They re-engaged in this time.
Why?
Previously.
Why would you have re-engaged?
You want to know?
So, yeah, my name is Rob McGregor. My address is 13616 East Camden Shade. And since we're in a library, I'm gonna channel Maya Angelou just for a moment. And one of her quotes is, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them." And as a manager, one of my other favorite quotes I use frequently is, "Past performance is the best indicator of future performance." And what this builder has shown us is they don't care about our community, right? And they lied, because I think it was Wichita Business Journal.
Yeah.
Who, they said, oh yeah, this was about a year ago. You're gonna start seeing a lot of work there within the next couple weeks. That's the time frame they told a reporter, and it was published. You're gonna start seeing the facade go up, everything else. Well, guess what? A year later, it's stagnant, still no work, right? And if this is who they are now in this process, what type of community member are they going to be, you know, in the future when and if this ever gets finished? And my concern is that, you know, what I'm hearing from all of you is that we have no recourse and this could go on in perpetuity, essentially. And to me, that's a lack of leadership. You know, there are things that we can do. In fact, I reached out to the mayor and he had someone from the city call me. And he said that there were options that the city could take, but it would be very expensive. But there are options that the city can take.
Did he, I've spoken with MABCD weekly and with legal. And so I would be very interested in chatting with you about that. I haven't spoken with the mayor about that.
Yeah, because I had a voicemail that
Do you know,
talked about that.
was it him who left you the voicemail?
Not the mayor, it was someone from the city. And he stated his title. Anyway, we'll talk about this after. I don't want to use all my time on this. But the other thing is, so what I just heard from you is that we re-engage the builder. We should not be re-engaging this builder. If they don't want to reach out and they don't care enough about their project, why in the world would we keep reaching out to them to try to bring them back to the table? Because they're not engaging us. That tells us where we rate in their system where they're prioritizing little shops. Also, at what point does this become a public nuisance or blight? You know, so I think there are other ways that we can approach this. What I'm hearing is a leadership decision here that we're just gonna wash our hands of this. And we're gonna prioritize the developer who doesn't even live in the city over our own residents. And to me, that is completely unacceptable. And I think we need to start having a change in how we do that. Because what if this goes on for another 10 years, 15 years, 30 years? There has to be an end, and other cities, there was one other city that had Calamar tear down one of their buildings. So there are.
Go back and look at some of our data. Very much advocate for following.
I'm not hearing that in this meeting.
The processes and the procedures as they are outlined, and I've spent a lot of time learning. Sometimes we are on the side of the resident, sometimes we're on the side of commercial, and sometimes we're on no one's side because they're not following the processes and the procedures. So in this case, it sounds like they're following the process and the procedure, and when they don't do that, you will hear us saying, sorry, you didn't follow process and procedure. We're not on your side.
Yeah. But why are we calling them and asking them to follow it if they're already not doing it on their
So,
own?
Tim, is it, so why did we engage them to see, is that, did we do that with all of our folks who have permits? Okay, so, say more. Because you wanted to see if progress can be seen.
I mean, it could be tied up. If they walk away from it, and we try to do something, which I don't think legally we can. We try to support it.
So I want to.
Because it would just go to legal.
We talked about what would happen if they proceeded, but if we didn't ever answer the question, what if they don't? What if they wash their hands and walk away? What is the city's report?
It's simple. I mean, if we try to condemn the building, it's gonna go through a court process. They can tie it up as long as they achieve.
No.
Tim's right. If they walk away, we have this huge ugly thing to city.
With nothing.
The city has no control over the disposal of that property for a long time. It will eventually turn into blight. The building itself. The building itself will become not just dangerous because it's unfinished, but because it's falling down. At some point, the city could go in there and using its nuisance laws and take over the building and tear it down. The cost of that is going to be 6 figures, maybe 7 figures. The city will have to pay that, but then the city will attach that to the property. So the property now, it's a clear lot, all right? But it has this huge assessment against it for the cost of tearing all that mess down and clearing the lot. That creates yet another problem for someone else to come along and develop that lot, because not only do they have to buy the property itself at that point, but they have to pay off the 6 or 7 figure amount that the city itself had to pay in order to clear the lot. And all of that is going to take several years.
But if they're not doing anything between the two permits, they're not. And we keep renewing it, they will sell it. The bank will take it over or they'll sell it. It's not gonna sit there, but we are reaching out to renew permits for, and you continue to sit and hope that they then continue to work. You go up, put a couple of boards for the next 6 months for the next renewal. So it's better to just not renew it and let they're not gonna just let it sit there and blight, they'll at least sell it. There's people trying to buy it.
And that would be ideal. That's
Right,
like somebody would.
Right, but they're not gonna do that
We would all
when
agree
they
that's the
continue, we
idea.
continue to reach out to them and say, hey, we'll renew you, put up a couple of boards, show us what your third party says. Well, we already know it's shoddy construction and it's been exposed and there's a lot of problems.
Can the city not possess it?
No.
And sell it? Why not?
We don't own the
So
land.
you're doing it, it's the
We don't,
same reason
we
you
don't own
can't.
the land, like we couldn't
I
buy,
know
come and
that.
take your home.
They
Right, or
don't-
another property,
I
we
understand
can't,
that.
we
They
can't.
are not doing anything.
Yeah, that is true. It is true and it is unfortunate, but we can't take over
So
the
don't
property.
renew the permit.
We don't own the property. Yes, thank you.
Hi, my name is Tanisha. I live at 13622 East Camden Chase. I love my neighborhood. I love my house. I've lived here for 8 years. When this building was coming up, my husband said, so once we downsize, we move there and be a
We just walk over.
Actually, it's so easy. Today's meeting, I feel like that you guys are helpless. You cannot do anything. And that really bothers me.
It bothers me too, trust me.
I mean-
It's in a very precarious position to be in because and the district advisory board, you know, is the advisory board, this is not binding board. They're here as volunteers. In my role and staff's role, this has been an issue that we've dealt with. And you are right. We are in a situation where there isn't a great deal that we can do. We have to follow the rules and the laws that exist so that we can be fair to everyone. And so we will continue, you know, Chris, the director, and I have talked about the October deadline and what comes next, what we can do. I hope that progress will be made. That's what's ideal for everyone. But there are things we can't take the property. We don't own it. It's not the city's
No, I
property.
know
to
you
take.
don't own it.
Yeah, but
You
we
know,
can't, we
there's no
don't,
law.
Give
Somebody do these things up, that you cannot possess it.
yeah, we can't just take over somebody's property.
But that's like,
So,
if you break a law, you know, you go to jail.
mhm.
The same kind of thing, you mess up some property, city has no way to do anything about it.
We can't take someone's property.
What about if I don't maintain my home and really mess it up, what are you guys gonna do, nothing?
We have processes through the Metropolitan Area Planning, the Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department, and that's the process that we're following now.
And they take a long.
Unfortunately. it
We
is.
had a house in our neighborhood, kind of like that I fought for 20 years.
Don't-
I called it MABCD, they put boards on the windows, the house was vacant, lady was a hoarder, had it full. For 20 years it sat that way, finally, I happened to notice, there was a little hole in the roof, and that set it off, but it took 20 years to get rid of that. And that was just running our whole neighborhood down, one property, but you can't take it, it's gotta get pretty bad.
So please minute, please minute.
So you guys can do anything?
We are following right now what we can do. The next deadline is the end, towards the end of October, and there's a answer to.
So the
And
goal,
work has to be done.
so don't renew the permit is the goal of the
Yeah,
meeting.
right.
Yeah.
For you guys to hear us and be an advocate with your leadership of not reaching out, understanding, do not renew the permit. So we don't experience it for 20 years.
So if we don't review, but just so you're aware,
So we.
if we don't.
Took 20 years.
If we don't renew the permit, then nothing happens.
They will
Well,
sell it.
actually, it was Chris.
You don't know.
Something will happen, yeah, that, we talked.
I'm 99% sure it was Chris who called me and left the message, and he said, and so I'd encourage you to talk with him, because he said. Whatever this option was, and that the city was considering it, would be very, very expensive to the city and involve legal. And so I'm assuming it's to tear it down.
And no, it wasn't to tear it down, because Chris and I had this exact conversation. We could start going through the condemnation process. it would cost more than 7 figures and it would take 5 years. Is what legal has.
Will that still be finished before the building?
Would lock in 5.
Yes, sir.
Bryce Warnick, 13402 East Main State Street. This has been going on for years now, almost going on 4 years. We're hearing the same thing that we did back then, you know. I tell you one thing, if I was moving into Hawthorne, now, I wouldn't move in if I saw that, you know? So it's carrying down our property values, but our property taxes are going up. So, go figure that. This company, if you do a Google search, Better Business, paper that they did 4 stories on this, and they found all these places all over the United States. Liens, lawsuits, levies on Palomar. So, like Topeka, they finally declared it a nuisance. Blue Springs, they tear it down. In Missouri, they tear it down and rebuild. So enough is enough. We put up with this now for almost 4 years, and no one seems to want to take responsibility for it and do something. So is there an avenue where we can sue? Can we sue the city of Wichita for doing this to us? Okay, for lowering our property values and approving this crap company to come in and just make a mockery of our neighborhood. And it's unacceptable what they're doing, you know? Can we sue? Does anybody know? Does anybody have a list?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I would address, if that's okay, Mr. Ward, is that when you said the city allowed them to come in and do this, it's private property. We don't decide who, like, if the lot next to you is vacant and somebody goes to build a home, the city doesn't approve who the builder is. So we don't have any authority over who builds. Now, if the city owned the land or if the city offered incentives, then we have more authority, but when it's just private land, we can't say, so I just wanted to make sure when you.
I know I was on Bridge Road about 5-6 months ago, and I saw this beautiful, I said, apartment complex being built. So I went in, I pulled in, I talked to the foreman, the manager of the construction company. And they were just guys out there just busting it, they were getting it done, boom, boom, boom. They had all the materials, they had no supply problems or anything, just a wonderful. And that's the way it should happen. And then he was telling about the place on 143rd, you know, same thing, you know. I mean, there's no excuse, we want something done. We don't want that company in our neighborhood, okay? Because years from now, that company, they're gonna turn that place into a section A or worse. And we don't want it. We just don't want it. So we want to know who we can sue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who's next?
I just have one question. Are they paying property tax on it?
Yes.
They're paying it.
With the current
They're
improvement?
it's being levied against them.
Yeah.
So they haven't.
Answer that question one way or the other.
And
I thought Becky, didn't you just nod your head yes
that
though?
they would have to be paying property. I mean,
The
they have
owner of
something,
the
but I don't.
But nodding your head yes and saying they're paying is not the same as, yeah, you have my money.
It's being levied.
Isn't
that,
Right.
is there some legal rights there if they're not paid?
Sorry, what?
Doesn't the city get some legal rights if they don't pay taxes? Just like if I don't pay taxes, I know what they'll do to me.
When I said if they abandon the property and it sits there and falls apart, the city ultimately could then go in and condemn it. And I said we put a lien on the property at the courthouse. The same holds true for a property owner who doesn't pay their property taxes. If they don't pay their property taxes for several years, it's not just 1 year, I believe it might be 3 years.
And then it comes up in condemnation
Then it
cases.
can be condemned in a lien placed on the property. And when that property sells, whatever it sells for, that profit has to be used to pay off those liens. And that lien
force
could be
the
a
sale?
mortgage, that lien could be a lien like, we're talking about.
I think you can force the sale.
So my only second question is, if it comes to be mid-October and asks for an extension, are you gonna give it to them?
Let's see what progress they do.
But you were here to do the inspection, are you gonna go there and see what progress they've made?
Take our chief building inspector, yes.
Our building inspector,
Sir. And that is.
Can I go follow up?
Chief building.
Brett Johnson.
sir, you're next.
I'm Joe Knoll, 13607 East Boxthorn. I've lived with my wife in the Hawthorne for 15 years, and we were actually at the original discussion when this,
Thomas?
when this was planned. So just a few questions I'd like to get out. Get back to these. So number one, what would the builder have to do to have you not redo the permit? If there's anything in particular.
So did everybody hear what Tim said?
No.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what he does within the next 60 days. What we see, either attempted work or no attempted work.
Okay, but what is different about the next 60 days compared to the last 60 days? And the last 60 days before that, what does he actually have to do to make you not renew the permit?
So Tim, is there a checklist of what needs to be completed by October 29th?
There's engineer's report, which we expect to be done within the next 60 days.
That they pay for?
They pay.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
I see it. We have a copy of it.
Is it shareable?
It's public record.
Yeah, it's public record.
So it's that engineer,
Who is the third
they
party?
paid, the third party engineer that they paid for.
We get it. Okay, Mr. Miller.
So that report will be made available to us.
So when the core request, if I remember.
Okay. If you could give us the contact information, so we can do that, that would be great.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you at all.
Sorry, you're gonna have to speak up.
She sent in a core request to request the engineer's report.
Thank you.
All right, is that property owned by Calamar or by the developer and is being leased? Does Calamar own that property?
Yes.
Okay. What else did I have on here? Who carries the liability for the surrounding area, the sidewalks and city streets around that area with the construction equipment? Okay.
Can you speak up? Can you speak up?
Sure, who owns liability?
Do you mean on site or around it?
Around it.
If it's
Like your neighborhood around it or?
Well, on, say, the area between the preschool and kindergarten and elementary school across the street.
Like the
Where
street
these
that's
kids
falling
walk back
in
and
front of
forth
it.
Around this blighted property.
Calamar's
If a
required.
child was injured on the sidewalk, is that city responsibility? Or Calamar's responsibility?
Sir,
If it's in the city sidewalk.
he was asking.
Calamar is required to cover liability insurance with the city of Wichita to hold that permit.
For their
The
property.
landowner wears sidewalk.
property.
For their property.
Okay, so
Same as
anywhere
in your neighborhood, your
sidewalk in is Calamar.
Someone's heard in front of your home on sidewalk, yes.
Okay. And I'm gonna skip some of my swarmy comments in here. But for anyone that might be over 55, would you encourage or be willing to live there
No.
after this is built?
Yeah.
Volunteer to live there for a year, have your elderly parents live in this building?
Nope.
And if not, I would ask you to let us know what we can do to help start or motivate the city to start the condemnation process, so. Thank you for your time.
I think, I will say, if I can have a journal, I think there's lots to be done between now and condemnation. That is probably for this neighborhood and the surrounding area, the least desirable option, because it would take the longest of the options that are presented. So,
But if it's inevitable, why don't we
you
start
don't
the
know if it's
process now?
inevitable because.
Based on
another
past
company-
performance,
Another, they could they could find success, another company could purchase it, as we mentioned. So condemnation would be, it would take the longest process.
But the only way to get another company to possibly buy and restart, rehab and finish this construction would be to not have this permit. Immediately, correct? Okay, but the only way to maybe give someone another chance at restarting construction would
That
be to
is
not
one
remove
way.
the
That would be one way, and it would increase the financial pressure on them to do something about getting out from under that, because
Well,
I'm
also-
guessing there's a good deal of debt.
Also, with the structure being up for 4 years, it's still only being taxed on the land. So they don't have a lot of, we're not getting a lot of taxes back for what we're increasing to all the homeowners around it. They're still just paying 50 grand a year for the land. They're not being taxed on the property that's been in us for 4 years. So is there any way we can start taxing them on the property we're giving them permits on?
I have no idea what the appraiser's office is doing with that, so.
My guess says no, because once you finish building a project and it gets appraised, the value of the improvements, meaning the building in this case, is added to the value of the land and recorded with the county, and that's the value, that combined value is what is used to determine what.
But as a city, shouldn't we be charging them more? Because if they were to sell the property today, they would sell it with the value of the improvement on it. And so why are we only charging them taxes on just the land?
Most cities don't charge taxes on improvements until the improvements are finished and occupancy permits are
But
issued.
why do we have to follow what most cities do? I mean, it doesn't make sense when you have a.
It's our law. It's not a policy. It's
It's the law for
local
Wichita?
ordinance. Yeah,
Okay.
and which could be changed, but likely wouldn't be because of a single incident like this. No matter how egregious this really may be.
Until you have occupancy.
Right.
I wanted to go back to
our
one thing.
our property taxes lowered in Auckland?
Well, that's a
Yeah.
different issue, but I wanted to go back to one thing you said right at the
You
beginning.
can go
where
to, you can go
said-
to the county appraiser at any time for your taxes.
Well, then it should be down, because it's driving down.
Well, and you can do that. You could make that phone call anytime and make it an appointment.
I did that, so my taxes went up over 2 years, 27%. And I did go back to the county and I did protest. I sent them pictures of the building and they reduced it by about $5,000. Which was, yeah, so I'm saying that does.
Sorry, I just want to go back to one thing you said at the beginning where you said, what is gonna be done? What's something that we could track? How are you gonna know if progress is made? Why is there not a checklist? I would encourage you again to go back and look at some of the city council meetings where they look at properties. Every property is different. Every time they look at a property that's been under, like, how do we know what they're doing? They have improvements that they're checking when they're inspecting properties. I don't know that there's a specific checklist, but every time something comes in front of city council, every time, well, every time they're looking at something, I mean, and they give a report to city, because I watch all the city council meetings. They're looking at whatever that progress is. I would encourage you to go back and look at some of the old meetings as to how they're determining what does progress look like? What are the different things when they're going out to the properties? What the progress was from one time they looked at it to the next time they looked at
So
it.
that's not public, that's not a building. So that's within the metropolitan area planning department.
I know, but those are, they can look at those meetings and they can see the difference between when they're doing that, when they're not doing that. Those are all.
We don't see it. We drive by.
There's no work.
We don't see it.
But that's in the future and it hasn't happened yet.
So who's the next speaker? Who would like
You
to
can
speak
still
next?
watch those meetings and see what's happening with another problem. To answer the question that you asked.
My name's Heather Bloomer. I live in 312 North Lockwood.
Can you speak up, please? Sorry, thank you.
I guess sorry, I'm you repeat your name and Heather Bloomer, 2312 North Lockwood. So I live in Hawthorne. I've lived in the area for 15 years now. Across the street and in Hawthorne. I've seen it from the beginning. My kids go to the school on the corner across the street. We've had incidences.
I mean, the number of instances we had of homeless and lockdown before that went up, now is, I mean, our principals had to go out. They've had to deal with people on substances, they've had to deal with what that building being vacant is doing, and there's kids there. And I just hear that everyone's saying that, oh, we're gonna call them up, it's the best option, we're gonna just keep letting this go, we're not gonna have any consequences for these people. Besides them paying more fines and them not paying their taxes, so they can get levied onto the next buyer. Like, there's nothing that's happening to them. There's no recourse. And that, I think, is what's frustrating for all of us sitting in this room, is we're putting in the effort from the city side, we're reaching out to them. We want them to continue, but everything they're doing that affects us has absolutely zero consequence. So I think my question is, are you willing, if they don't do their steps, to ask whoever in legal to start the process to terminate? Put it for sale, do whatever you have to do to not let them continue.
I will commit to whatever is within the confines of the law. We can't have it be for sale. It's
And
not
I
our problem.
understand, but it's not about them from continuing the
Yeah.
process.
I don't even think it's not condemnation.
You cannot remove the permit. But you cannot remove.
What
the
about a
permit
nuisance,
and then-
calling it, making that a nuisance? Actually, did up to Topeka.
Tim, at this point, would it fall under a nuisance?
Fire
hazard. Fire hazard.
Yeah. Fence, also got an alarm system on the building.
So they proceed with something.
Fire
Because they have
retardant system in
no.
it? Does not have, so I mean, it's a fire hazard.
It's a fire.
It is a fire hazard.
Yeah.
You
You saw what happened over in.
It's not occupied.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not
occupied.
occupied.
They're
so
also.
it's probably not-
But it is. I'm not saying, but I mean, they probably don't. But they're not the official boss.
It should be interesting that
Okay, let's get it back. Just so that way everybody can hear. Ms. Bloomer, is there anything else?
I would just like to know if there's going to be something to stop the continuation of NOAA. On the, I mean, that's really what all of us are asking.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bloomer, thank you.
Is the city of Wichita aware of all the cities that are having the same problem and all the lawsuits against California across the country? Is the city of Wichita aware of that, of what's going on in this country?
I'm not sure where. I know that the Metropolitan Area Planning Department director.
Are you
is the board aware of it?
Excuse me,
Is this board aware of that?
this board doesn't have to be aware of it.
But they should, you represent us, so you should be aware of that, right? Because what I keep hearing and what I'm most frustrated about here is the complete obliviousness of the board to say, well, you know, it's gonna start happening, we're gonna keep, it's gonna be better, it's gonna be better. But look at how many sites around the country are in the same position with no work being done, with a company that is financially strapped. How soon do you think they're realistically gonna get the resources to be able to devote to the Wichita property, even if we're stacked ranked at the top of that list for prioritization of kind of starting the project again? And it's not gonna happen. And for you guys to keep talking about like it's imminent, right around the corner, is nonsense. And what I'm hearing.
I know what it is.
So,
that told you it was gonna
I'm
happen.
gonna make,
Nobody's
no, I'm gonna make a comment. I'm gonna make a comment. We knew, city staff and I knew that there were gonna be concerns, so we put this on the agenda for this evening. We could have just had a community meeting instead, and that might have been better. I've offered to different homeowners associations. I know Chris has gone, I've gone, spoken with community members. I do want to make a comment that saying that this board is oblivious is not fair to them. Because this case doesn't, they are not going to vote on it. They're not going to make any decisions on it. It's not at the district advisory board level. So these are people who volunteer to serve the community. And so
Do they represent our neighborhood as well?
they do.
So then they should be aware of what's
No,
going on in our.
That's not how this process works, because they're not voting on this issue. This isn't an agenda item that they will be voting on like the next two cases that we have. that
Well,
we're
I would
voting.
disagree.
So they do not have to know about every single issue within the district, just the items that come before us for vote. But I would say, these are your neighbors, and these are people who are volunteering their time. And so I just want to make sure that we're being fair to them, because this is not a case that is coming to them for a vote or something that they are expected to have that level of knowledge. If it's an actual agenda item where they get a staff report and it's 5 or 6 pages, yes, then I would ask. that
But
they
you
know
are,
this.
you are.
I am.
You are.
And so you can blame me all you want. I'm
Well-
just saying, Mr. McGregor, please don't blame
And
blame the
So-
district.
Well, I'm entitled to my opinion,
Sure.
but, and I appreciate what you're saying, and I do appreciate, everything that everyone's doing. But what I'm hearing, especially when you're talking about fairness, we're asking for fairness for us,
I
and
completely
all
agree.
I'm hearing is, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do, and as a manager, there's always something you can do. And what I'm hearing from this board
What I'm saying
is
is
that we're not gonna do
from
anything.
now
and that's
until
unacceptable.
October 29th, we have to follow the process. I'm not saying after that, there isn't something we.
I want to hear about what you can do, not what you can't do.
Well, what
So-
I am
so one of the
gonna
things
say
I-
is- Stop, please, everyone. Who is the next speaker? Thank you, sir.
Hold
on, I'm sorry, before you speak, the library closes at 8, so when you exit this meeting at whatever time it is, please use that exit door.
And I'm gonna make a comment about that. When you go out the door, it is not well lit. And it is not ADA accessible, so if you do need help to get out of the building, we'll be happy to try and help you. But when you go out the door, it's not well lit, there's a step immediately down.
Be
Okay,
careful.
so be very careful. Don't just think you're walking out into a flat surface because you will trip. There's a step down and then you go out to the side. And there's no alarm on the door, so you're welcome to go in.
I live in a blighted neighborhood, so I'm used to the other.
Yes.
I spoke earlier. I know that the city's got an engineer that gave a report. The city does have some teeth inspection wise. They can make that. That building needs to be structurally sound. No, it's not. And we need to get the fire department access open. I know everybody wants this thing torn down, and I do too. But if we can't get it done, we need to make sure we get a fire department access. So that if there is a fire, that they can get in there and fight the fire.
Thank you. That's a very significant point, and I really
We
appreciate
need
that.
to get them broadly structurally sound, and they're not now. So we need to get the tie back on the building. They're finishing the interior. The outside's more important than the interior, and you guys can make that happen. Let's get the building done on the outside, so we don't have to look at the thing anymore. And quit spending money on the inside, and you can make them do it if you want to. And that's about all I gotta say. And 127th Street, that street needs to be fixed within the next 3 weeks, in my opinion. We've extended for 2 years, so I'm gonna quit talking. Hopefully you'll start doing that for us.
And I made a note. I think the fire access in 127th Street are very.
And we need to get the building sound when finished.
And Public Works will always come to your HOA, your neighborhood association.
I'll try to do this quickly.
Thank you, sir.
Jim Harrison, 2445 North Beckman Court. Over the last year, there hasn't been anybody in there at all, other than there's a guy that comes in occasionally, goes in the trailer. You're not sure what he does. But the weeds grew about this tall, and they finally got around to mowing it. Seems to me that at least the city could be pushing those sort of items. There's no reason for the weeds to be growing this tall around, because we were having problems with critters, and we had a couple homeless people and stuff. So it seems to me that probably hasn't been, no one's been looking at it for the last year or 2 years. There's been a couple times the weeds are growing real high like that. You can put pressure on it that way. There are things that you can do, go by and say, hey, this needs to be taken, that needs to be taken care of. I'm assuming that as long as nobody talks to Calamar, they figure they're okay. So, any little bit of pressure you can put on them seems to me that.
And I know that the Metropolitan Area Planning, the Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department, Chris and I have, because we've had complaints about tall grass and weeds, have been able to try and address.
They did mow them a couple of weeks ago. Just sort of an update, there's been 3 people working in there in the last week or 2. You can hear a hammer pound about every 2 minutes. So I don't know what they're doing inside. Obviously, maybe they're starting to work on some of the things we want. But I figure 3 people working on that building, about 2050, they might be done.
tends to respond to the squeakiest wheel. So if you all are seeing nuisance issues like
Get paid.
report them in present.
If you,
When people,
Because they don't go driving around looking for nuisance. There's more nuisance than they.
so when people call me
This
about.
kind of problem, but maybe somebody can just run by there about once a month.
Actually, I know that MHC goes by there, the director, I think, goes by there pretty frequently, but when people call me about how often I tell them to call the department.
if you Google City of Wichita tall grass with a space, it literally brings up the Access Wichita website. You can put in the address, you can put in the complaint and all that, and it goes right to the appropriate people. They come right out and.
Shout out to Access Wichita.
See you guys. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? I still want to make sure everyone's.
Oh, yeah. We don't get the health department involved in this. It has to be absolutely infested. The windows and the doors have been open this whole time.
And that's a great question. I appreciate it. And I can tell you that it's not a health department issue. It's metropolitan area building and construction department. Yes.
Is that part of your inspection
And
process?
even if it was, it could still be.
No.
That's actually, we were sharing last time, we couldn't find it.
And you find no rats, no squirrels, no,
What's that?
but the doors and the windows have opened for 4 years. Really?
But it's not a health, it's not a health department, it's MABCD.
But was the inspection done by their engineer that they put?
Cursory walkthrough, two building inspectors did a cursory walkthrough when we were. That's when we told them they need to get a third party.
Is that Brett?
Yes.
There's also wood in the garages stacked up that they're gonna apparently use, but it's been getting soaked for 4 years now.
Sir, would you like to make comments?
I don't have much to say, but Kent Noah, 2280 North Williamsgate Court. I've sat here and listened to these comments, and I think everything that's been said has been said again. The contractor has no integrity, hasn't fulfilled any obligation on their part. The city, from what I hear, with the inspectors, haven't inspected properly because this gentleman tells that it's not built within spec. It changed after we had our formal meeting, the height of the building. So who's accountable with you and your group to come here and make statements and do something? Because it's really not going anywhere with the comments we've been made here today, right? You agree? So what is your role in this process?
The assistant director, the MABCD.
So what does that mean? Tell me what that means to me.
Basically, I'm in charge of the building inspectors, oversee their jobs. So.
Did you hear what this gentleman said?
I don't know what he
You
said.
agree what he said?
I don't know, I haven't been there.
Well, there you go. The next meeting, there's somebody here that has, who knows what's going on.
I'll take a
knows
walk
what we've
with them.
done, and
But the building
have somebody
inspectors
with
have.
authority that can make decisions, because it's not going.
There
anywhere.
isn't necessarily.
I just think that it's
Yeah, I'm
time.
working with the director.
Everybody can sit around and dance around the issue, but somebody needs to take action. And quit talking about it. It's time.
Does, I just have a question, process wise. Does, what is it, NABCD? Do you have meetings that we can attend? And are your minutes available from your previous meetings? How often do you meet about these issues? I mean, are you not discussing this on a committee level with how many people are in your department? And you don't have meetings regularly in general?
So an inspector has, Tim, I'm gonna ask questions. Does an inspector have this as one of their cases?
Yes.
Yes.
And we don't
So
have
their case, just like a building inspector. So there isn't an actual committee regarding this
There's one
case.
guy,
but
but he
the other
doesn't
case,
report
it's
to
one
anyone?
inspector. And so, Tim, your inspectors, Brett is over this case, correct? Yep. And so he would have his notes, his files, his
Right, our
report.
inspector inspection report is inspection. If he finds violations, he notes those violations and sends out a correction notice. to-
So you're his boss.
One of them.
So you have one inspector for that entire project?
There's multiple inspectors. We have a building inspector, an electrical
Electrical.
inspector, a mechanical inspector, and a plumbing inspector. They may change from time to time, but typically we try to keep the same person on the same job, so they're familiar with that job.
Are there reports public record?
I don't know if they are or not, probably.
Do you have HOA meetings,
Yes,
your group?
yes.
Why don't you invite them to your HOA? That's what I would do.
So
Is that an option?
Sam, we've already done them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we can come back again, but Chris and I have been to different
Well,
HOA.
but you're
meetings.
saying
We're happy
we,
to
but
go.
you're saying you don't have really anything to do with this at this point, and it's sounding to me like we need to go to this
Sure,
group of folks.
absolutely. And but Chris, who's the director, has gone to HOA meetings and homeowners associations around.
Guess
town.
my
Been in
question
the building?
is like, my question is, if we have concerns and you folks are volunteers, and thank you for being public servants, those of you who are, I understand how that works. But if you're not ultimately the ones who are making decisions about this, and it sounds like we need to go to
And
this
maybe-
group.
Sure.
Do you not hold meetings that we could all collectively come together and voice our concerns to the people who are actually making these decisions? We would love that. How do we make that happen?
So what Chris has done, the director has gone to homeowners association meetings. So he went to you, and not necessarily you, ma'am, I'm sorry, but to different homeowners associations. If you would like to have the Metropolitan Area Planning Department, Construction Department come to your homeowners association meeting, just let us know and we will arrange that.
Like you personally know?
Let me know, yes, and we'll make sure that they can get scheduled.
And then we can voice our concern to the people who are actually making the decisions whether or not to renew these permits. Or engage them to try to get them to do work to renew the permits. Fabulous, thank
Great
you.
question. Yes, Ms. Blue.
So the person that comes, that you're talking about, the director, sorry.
Yes, the director, Chris, sure,
Has he been in it?
yes.
Do we?
I'm assuming he has been, I can't tell you the last time, but I know he's done walkthroughs. So
And do we
can't-
have any idea if the third party they paid for privately matches the actual concerns in the building?
Tim, you would know that.
We mentioned our concerns plus.
All of them were
plus
found?
additional concerns
Okay.
that he found.
That's a good
Is,
question.
is there a way that we can monitor this October 29th date, give or take a day or two? Is that gonna be a meeting, a closed meeting, private? What's the process so that we can see firsthand what have they done and what the city is laying out in response for these people to do or not to?
We'll say contact our office a few days before that. We start asking.
Well, before you said that you contacted them and the permit was supposed to expire the end of August, but you
Correct.
contacted them at the beginning of August.
Correct.
So should we contact you at the beginning of October?
We can start doing it.
Are you gonna contact them the beginning of October?
Probably not.
Good.
I mean,
Your MA,
Here, so it's the Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department.
MABC,
D,
oh, MAB.
MABCD.
It's a code enforcement construction department that encompasses the county and the city. They used to be separated, the city and county.
They've got a website.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And you gave them a timeline to do this engineer's report,
Yes,
and that date is,
to get it done,
yes.
to get stuff completed, that's a 60-day extension we gave you.
And you'll go out and do an inspection at that time?
Correct, plus they've got another third-party engineer overseeing corrections also. They hired an additional third-party engineer besides the one that wrote the report.
Can you share? Yeah.
What?
That doesn't seem right. It's like the fox.
You should designate it and make them pay
I
for.
don't necessarily want government funding.
The city is-
Well, I know, but.
It's really no different. I mean, it really is.
You
You gotta be
gotta-
careful what you want government
but-
funding
but-
versus private equity.
But they chose the engineer and they paid him.
Just like.
What is
city
But it's
chose?
vetted against their report as well.
Yeah, okay. My next question is, these issues that were brought up, construction issues tonight. Were any of those issues brought up in
Mr. Miller to go forward.
Okay, civic question.
And if they haven't, what happens then? Well, that's what I mean. I'm just saying.
Did you trespass on the property to do that? I don't know.
Well, I think that's.
Well, they didn't have that for 2 years, so.
If the gentleman in charge needs to identify in his group who needs to come to that meeting that done the inspections or whatever they do on this property for you, and, okay? Because if not, we can't get anywhere because he can't answer the questions, he didn't do the inspection. So, I mean, let's calm down, let's get to the crux of this thing and get some details and facts of what they did or not did. But it's time to move past that, to get the people either that's done the stuff or in the next level of authority to get an action plan, what's next? That's what I think you do.
The
Thank you.
phone number for the Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department is 660-1840. 660-1840, and it actually falls under the county because it's a partnership between the city and the county. So their actual website and information is under sedgwickcounty.org. And
So
if
you
look
said-
under building construction.
660-1840.
1840, and Chris Labrum, LABRUM is the director.
And then, can we have the name of the person you reached out to at Calamont to renew with and engage for the permit renewal, so we can contact the company?
66446.
I did have just one closing comment, and I just wanna say, we're close to 8:30. I don't know how long these meetings normally go, but Becky, I have reflected on your comments, and I do wanna just say thank you to all of you. You are volunteers, and, I appreciate your time. I'm sure this was probably a longer meeting than you were probably anticipating, and Becky, as you said, you didn't have to have this in this format or this meeting. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and if nothing else, this is really our only avenue to kind of vent and just express our frustration. So I'm sorry that you're kind of getting the brunt of that. But hopefully productive things will come out of this meeting. And I know that we do have to operate within the confines of the law. One thing I'm taking away from this is that we have very educated people on the board that are aware of, what that process looks like. But I just hope that you will take away from this, our feelings from the community and advocate for us, and I appreciate that.
And I appreciate that, just for can I say one quick thing? I really do, and it is not lost on me. Sometimes you have, it's managing people's expectations and being honest. I say to people all the time, I can tell you whatever you want to hear, but that's not helpful. And that's not being honest, and that's not being a public servant. And so I will do everything I can do within my power, but also within the scope of the city ordinances and the state laws to be helpful. But I also can only do what I can do. And that's why if it seems like I'm being flippant or that I don't hear your discontent, that's not the case. I'm just trying to be very honest with what we can actually do at this point. As we move forward, there's touch points like October 29th and such that action can happen. But unfortunately, right now, that's not an option. So I hope that saying there's nothing we can do right now doesn't mean being complacent. It's just being honest and trying to manage expectations.
Yeah, in other cities though, like Pickett, a councilman, he went after Calamar as a nuisance. And got him to
And I'm
move.
not saying that that's something we can't pursue in the future, just not
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Can I just ask
Yeah,
one
sorry.
question?
Yeah.
I just want to confirm, because Chris is not here tonight. Do all of these comments and concerns, they're put in minutes, I'm assuming, and he
The best minutes ever.
Thank you. You've done that now. I just want to confirm that he will receive those and in fact review them,
And as a
correct?
matter of fact, Chris and I are meeting or chatting tomorrow. If he did not have a death in his family,
For sure.
he would be.
Okay,
And he texted me, I think 10 times today,
okay.
saying how sorry he was that he couldn't be here, but had to travel out of state for a family.
I just want to
So
confirm that
he will
we will be heard.
You will absolutely be heard. Not only will he review the minutes, but he and I will be continuing to meet and discuss this several times a week.
Great, I appreciate that.
Yes, I'm sorry, Ms. West.
I
Yes.
just have a quick question. Ms. Becky, is there a way that you guys could possibly bring that developer in for a meeting? So that. it's like a
You know what, we certainly can invite them to, we can't require them to. I've had other issues, none like this, but if it was a zoning case that was contentious and bringing the developer and the community members together along with staff and myself, sometimes is helpful. So if that's something that you all are interested in, we have another meeting about this, we can certainly make the invitation, but again, just to be realistic, we can't require them. No, I think that's a great point.
I just remember something similar to this with the Minnesota guys and
Yeah.
downtown. And so I remember that kind of have them come in, which kind of forced them to sell their properties because.
I appreciate that, that's a really good point. We hear about the Minnesota guys still all the time, that was
Yeah.
long before any of, so thank you, sir, that was great. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My question is, there was this mall town, it's 19 miles just east of Kansas City, and it's called Blue Springs, Missouri. And Calamari was starting, they did the exact same thing that they did here. And I'm sorry, Calamar.
I thought it was cute.
They did the exact same thing, but by the second year, they actually contacted Calamar and told them that they had to demolish what they had because of a public nuisance law.
And I don't know what their laws are in Blue Spring or in Missouri, but I can certainly look.
Maybe
into
we
it.
should change that.
So by the time if it was a state law, that can take a really long time.
I have no idea.
Yeah, but maybe we look at our zoning code and, or excuse me, our codes for the city.
Because within 2 years, it was, gone.
Chris.
So I'd like to challenge, but you said, sir, that this is your only avenue. That is far from the truth. I invite all of you to get involved with the city, get involved with local politics, get involved with boards, committees, zoning questions, everything else. 4 short years ago, I was sitting in a chair, just like you are. That's how I met Becky Tuttle about a zoning issue and a contentious plan that was being brought to the city. It was handled and it came to a board like this, and it was dealt with. We are volunteers up here. We are here because probably we sat in a seat just like you did with the situation that we were brought aware of. That was like, holy cow, how does this happen? How do we get to this point? So I invite every single person in here that is upset with this situation to learn more about it, get more involved, and be proactive. The city is looking for board members to voice their opinions every week on multiple boards. The MABCD has boards. It's specific construction inspection forms. Sometimes we're privy to sites because of LOAs and other legal issues with construction specific. But I invite all of you to get more involved and be more aware of what is all going on in the city, because unfortunately, there's a ton of one-third completed projects, issues, tall grass, dilapidated buildings falling over, fire hazards, children, homelessness, drug use. It's all over the city. And I just invite you all to be more involved and be more aware of all of this, because again, 4 years ago, I was sitting where you were, it landed in my backyard. And now I'm aware and understand exactly how the laws work, how the codes work, why the city can and can't do certain things that unfortunately take a long time. And so I would just invite you all to do that. I greatly appreciate the awareness of the neighborhood and everything else. Expand it out just a little bit to the city, and let's really make some changes around here. So that's great.
Chris, did your situation work out?
The proposed developer decided to pull his permit and would not want to build where he wanted to do his plans.
Then I asked Chris to be on the district advisory board, and we became fast friends. And I'm gonna take a.
And in the first email I sent, I didn't know what a dab was, and now I'm sitting here. So It's great. I appreciate the care and the emphaticness of what is going on. I'm in the construction industry, so I'll leave a lot of that out, but it is very frustrating. So,
And I'm gonna take a point of personal privilege. Chris is a veteran and today is Patriots Day. So Chris, and I see another veteran in here, and if there's others. Thank you for your service and what you've done.
You know, there is one positive thing of this. It's really bringing your neighborhood together, believe it or not. I think that really helps sometimes. There might be others.
Sir.
I am here for the off agenda. I was wanting to make sure that we were still gonna get to that. Okay.
I'm so sorry. She's been far behind.
Long time ago.
Wait, I just want to verify when I looked online about reporting to Tall Grab, it also had an area where we can report nuisance, correct?
Correct.
So every single person in that neighborhood and around could, no, you might want to put that out on there. You want. No. Yeah.
There will be much.
You know how much that's.
So the line board members can get on.
Yeah.
My name is Robert Foster. My address is 14220 East Gilbert Circle. I would like to start with what I have to say with hopefully what everyone would agree with me to here with the facts. Kurt had a hot summer we've never had on record before. Yeah, it's always cooler to stay out in the shade than the sun. For several years, I've been concerned about the tree canopy for stock. And I plant 40 or 50 trees every year on my own. In December, I approached the Parks Department to see what they were doing about it. And the Parks Department removes about 6,000 trees per year on city property. They are able to replant about 2,000 trees. So every year we have about 4,000 trees less just on public property than we do have on private property. I inquired about how they go through their process. They explained to me that, like every department, they have a budget that they have to do. But like most everyone else, post-pandemic, they don't have employees and workers to be able to put trees in. A year ago, the city council.
Back door.
A year ago, the city council approved $600,000 to have 1,000 trees planted. The way they had to do it, because the city did not have employees, because they contract through a private contractor. I'll do the math for you, that's $600 per tree. It was very encouraging that the city was willing to spend that money, but it was also very scary, they're spending $600 per tree. As while I was speaking with the forestry department, the parks department, they said they just don't have the manpower. I asked them, do you mind if I go back to the schools? Never talked to anybody in the schools before. I just walked in the building at Lincoln and Edgemore. Got bounced around 4 times. I found the right person at Southeast High School. I spoke with her and I said, city can't plant enough trees. Kids are more environmentally conscious than they've ever been before in any generation. Can anything be done? She said, sure. I put a meeting together between the city and the schools. And in 6 weeks, we are going to have 1,275 trees planted. And the 900 trees that we were able to add in, were added in for a cost of $750. So a little bit cheaper than the 600,000. What the students are doing is they're planting the trees that were purchased from the forestry department. And they're a year-old sapling, whereas in the past, we had 4-year-old trees. Included in the contract is the landscaping companies have to water them. So the approach has changed to where it is now going to be smaller trees, but a much larger part. For 2024, we want to change it up a little bit, and instead of purchasing the trees, the students are getting 5-gallon buckets. They're collecting toilet paper tubes and paper towel tubes. 30 paper towel tubes will fit in a 5-gallon bucket. They're then planting 30 trees in that 5-gallon bucket. 30 trees, 300 students, that's 9,000 trees. Now, not all will sprout, but what will be available next fall is giveaways. Homeowners, you need a tree, city, you need some trees, whatever, there'll be trees to be given away. Now, I did not come up here to pontificate about the merits of what we're trying to do. I need help. City of Wichita is the 7th largest employer. State is the 8th, federal is 9th, county is 10th. 7, 8, 9, and 10 overall employees for government. About 10,000 employees. I'm asking you to stop throwing away your toilet paper and paper towel tubes. Okay, you have a bunch of employees, you got a lot of bathrooms, you got a lot of break rooms. Set a box aside, let people collect in there. I would like to see when that is collected throughout the buildings, that they're put in a central location. Nobody talks to our police officers or firefighters or anything like that. Put the box in the fire department, for the police department. We put it online, it's been shared over a couple hundred times. Plenty of people are collecting the paper towel and toilet paper tubes. It would be very nice if they had a central location they could drop them off at. And maybe talk to a police officer while they're there. The city operates a lot of buildings, has a lot of maintenance rooms, a lot of storage facilities, repair shops. You have a bunch of 5-gallon buckets laying around somewhere. Instead of throwing away, give them the name. Each bucket you come up with is 30 trees. All of this.
May I ask a question, sir? I think.
You can ask 5 to 10.
So, and I won't belabor it, and what I'd like for you to do is I would like to give you my card and maybe we have a conversation, because I just.
I'm more, we'll talk.
I just have a lot of questions of, let's say that I get my faith-based organization or my library to do this, then where do they take it, all of that? What would be very helpful for me, and then we can put it in the minutes and then everybody can share it on our networks far and wide, is what you said, but like in bullet points, if you will.
Currently.
Are you with ICT trees?
No, I'm a guy who knows the problem, and trying to do something about it.
Good on you.
And then SC3T3 picked up on it, I posted on there, and now it's blown up. So it appears, at this point, we have collected enough buckets for about 2,000 trees.
Wow.
Cardboard tubes for about 2,500 trees. The instructor at Southeast that I've been working with on this, when I asked her, how many students can we get involved in this? And she said, well, with short notice, 200 to 300. He said, well, with advanced notice, how many? Her answer was all of them. Southeast has 2,000 kids. If you want to give me 2,000 buckets, 2,000 buckets times 30 trees each, is 60,000 trees. For zero. The seeds, the Parks Department, I've worked with them. They picked the species that they want to have in the city, and it's about 10 or 12 of them. Giving me the location, and I have a group of people who are gonna go out and collect seeds here in about 3 or 4 weeks. In January, all of this can be put together. The students plant the seeds in the spring. They go off on their own in the summer. The city, the Parks Department has then agreed that they're gonna water them over the summer. And in the fall, they're ready to plant, give away, set up a booth in front of Target, Walmart, hand them out.
May want to reach out to the Central County Extension Office.
Yeah, great.
Because they are a fantastic partner and they may have a lot of.
Buckets. They like and repost it, so hopefully that connection is already there.
Humane Society has a lot of cat litter buckets.
I just-
Keep the ideas coming along.
I need help with it because there's 2 bathrooms right outside the store. There's paper towel dispensers throughout.
Well, and I was
And you need to clean up your buildings.
Riverfront Stadium,
Mhm.
right? So if I give you my card, Mr. Foster, could we have a a further discussion via email or
Sure.
phone or something?
There's actually a second part of this that's 2 or 3 minutes that I think would probably actually be the most beneficial part of it, if you don't mind. The city has spent $600,000, and so I want to use that as kind of a benchmark on this. The city has addressed the issue of, or is attempting to address the issue of heat islands, hot spots, whatever you want to call them, and I'm sure probably is everyone familiar with what they are. They're primarily in lower income neighborhoods, and then in the upper neighborhoods, because that's where your Walmarts, your Targets, you know, all those big black asphalt parking lots are. When those buildings were built, they built the huge parking lots. Times have changed. We've had a pandemic. There's now DoorDash. There's now Amazon Prime. Walmart will deliver your food to you. Dillon's will deliver your food to you. If you look at the parking lots, they're not used as much anymore. They're huge. They're black in color. 140 to 160 degrees is what the asphalt is in the middle of the summer. Instead of, and when you repay a parking lot is approximately 10 foot by 20 foot, so 200 square feet. I looked it up and it's between $2.50 and $4 per square foot to research a parking lot, $800. The companies don't need those big parking lots anymore, but you have to repay it, so give them an incentive. Okay, city has spent $600 per tree. So as an example, my example to you would be, tell them, if you want to remove 50 of your parking spots in your parking lot or 100 of them, put an island in there. You don't have to asphalt it anymore. You'll lower your taxes because you're taxed off your square footage of parking. We'll give you $100 tax credit each year for the next 3 years for doing it. The city just spent $300 to get some company to put the trees in their parking lot. A lot cheaper than $600 that they're paying now. The companies would want to do it because it would improve the shopping experience. I know when I go shopping, I don't want to get into my 140-degree car because my milk's gonna curdle and my ice cream's gonna melt. I look for a spot in shade. This is gonna create shade all across the parking lot. It attacks the prime contributors to the heat islands. That's the asphalt. And that's an easy fix. They would be incentivized because their property taxes get lowered. And they get a little bit of a break on the cost of the trees. The city can mandate, it has to be this species, it has to be this height. And then the company's planting for free.
I'm nominating for the sustainability.
I know,
I was actually the park director.
So,
Put them on staff.
He's full of other ideas too, so.
I was like, have you heard
Not
of
to
the
be the devil's-
sustainability board?
Devil's advocate, so I want the city to pay me to plant trees.
I would like for you to get $5.
I'll trade it. I'll give you $5.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Foster.
you.
Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. No, thank you. I'm gonna ask the district president for a point for this. I need to use the ladies' room.
It's a long meeting.
If we want to go ahead and continue,
Yes.
does everybody want a break or? do we
Yes.
want to-
No, you just put it as red.
Oh, no.
Everybody do his hand in.
Okay, we're gonna take like a 2 or 3 minute break.
I'll just
and
take
then-
this.
Except it's not when you return.
I'll be here. I think you're gonna get a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Hope things work out well. I just drove by that just the other day, you know, if it didn't set back for a lot more people would totally know about that. It's
More
Yeah.
than likely, we'll get.
Actually, I thought about that and I really want to keep that as an option. Yeah. My initial concern is there's so many single trees that are already out there. that use-
Yeah, that's true.
Use them up.
Like, if
Right.
it sounds like.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you want a short?
Or arbor.
Yeah, by all means.
Awesome.
So-
Thank you, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yeah. I'm with the planning department. Yes, not the department that has been working.
The one that's about to. Two projects, right?
Yes, to the usual students.
Yeah. We'll get over in 2 seconds, sorry.
Sure, no problem.
You're
It's been a
gonna,
long meeting, so
we're gonna win it tonight.
You didn't know it was gonna be a long, though, did you?
I did expect it to be long, so
Okay, well,
I was prepared for it.
you did great. Tracy and Jenny is up there
They still there.
holding on. That's why they give everyone the benefit of the doubt. If they're interested.
Come on in, Tim, since we get Chris, do we still have Jennifer and Tracy? Thank you.
I'm
Tracy.
here. Jennifer's still here.
Thank you, Jennifer. You're doing great.
I'm
You're doing
here.
great.
Tracy's still here.
Thank you, Tracy. Hang it in.
Both just woke up.
As soon as Chris comes back, we'll go ahead and get started, and we still have quorum. All right, Chris is in the house. Let's go.
This is Momita Kundu with the planning.
Oh, I'm so sorry. This is new business item 10. It's CON 2023-0033.
This is Momita Kundu with the planning department.
Thank you.
The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for an automated car wash on the property zoned LI Limited Industrial District. If you move to the site plan or the aerial. The site is currently developed with a vacant commercial office building that will be demolished for a new development. The applicant proposes to build a 3,200 square feet building with 11 parking spaces and a dumpster enclosure. The proposed car wash site plan shows that vehicles will enter and exit the car wash through the East Funston Street. Car washes are permitted uses in LI zone, subject to the supplementary use regulations of the Unified Zoning Code, which are listed in the staff report that you're having. The regulations state that the car washes require conditional use approval when developed within 200 feet of residential zoning. If you move to the zoning map real quick. The proposed site is within 200 feet of residential zoning on the east side across the South Rock Road. The proposed site plan adheres to all required setback and parking requirements set by the Unified Zoning Code. The exit of the car wash tunnel faces south. It also serves as a buffer between the vacuum directly west of the tunnel and residential development to the east. Their orientation promotes compatibility with the residential development to the west by minimizing the primary generation of noise. No zoning cases on this property before. The requested car wash development is in conformance with the community investment plan, which identifies the subject property as appropriate for commercial development. The requested zoning is in conformance with the goals of Wichita Places for People plan. Based upon the information available at the time of the staff report was prepared, it's recommended that the request be approved, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report. The recommendation is based on the golden rules which have been reviewed by the staff. The staff did receive one public comment on the requested conditional use from a gentleman who owns a medical facility next door, and he had no opposition to this request. The case was reviewed and approved by the MAPC on 4th of August, 2023. And with that, I'll stand for any questions on this.
And I always, in these meetings, state that I've received, if I have or have not, in this case, I have received no public comment, no community members have reached out to me within a few minutes. All right, questions from the deck?
Yes.
This was the old bank, is that correct? Or is it the?
This looks like, there's a commercial building in it, I'm not sure what it was before, but that would be them.
They had it like a drive through.
I think that's the old Emprise Bank on Rock Road, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's close to there. I believe I read and heard you say that the dryers would be on the west side of the building.
Mhm.
And the building would provide some sound block for the residential property to the east. I'm looking at the site plan and I'm old, my eyes are poor, but it seems to me that ingress, there's a single point of ingress to the entire property, is that right? It is at the southwest corner of
Yes.
the property, and that vehicles would pull in and go straight north and go through the process in a clockwise manner.
Yes, that what's appear on the site plan,
But wouldn't that put the dryer on the east side of the property?
No, I think the building's on the far.
The
side. The
is
drive
online
would be
with
between the
ours.
entrance and the building. If I'm reading it right.
I see the parking in the center.
This is where the dryers would be.
The dryers are the front dryer.
Oh, that's the dryer.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. That's my concern. I live in a neighborhood with one of these, although it's a smaller version, and though I live between a third and a half mile away with numerous residential properties and a commercial property between my home and this the car wash, I hear those blowers inside my house of a Sunday morning. Not just out on the deck. So I particularly appreciate trying to buffer these sounds from the residential areas. So that was the cause of my concern there. I had no other questions.
That's also my question, so, I've lived in this part of town for quite a while and actually, lived in the complex next to this and had friends that lived in this building.
Oh, really?
Because we used to play, tennis in that court. I don't think, I mean, I will be voting no to this conditional use because I don't care what corner of the property that dryer is on, that's too close to those apartments, and until we change the zoning where renters get contacted along with property owners. I don't believe if the renters knew that they were gonna be across the street from that loud blower, that they would have, they would probably be here, so. I'm gonna vote no, just because I know how close that is, and that's in my village, so.
I will vote yes, not because I disagree with you, but because they checked the boxes of the current procedure, but I do share your concern about the noise.
And
Well, it's a conditional use, and they are saying it's closer than well, that's why I'm voting no. They're asking permission because it's too close.
They're asking permission and we can give it, or actually, planning commission with everybody. We cannot.
Jennifer and Tracy, any questions, comments?
No questions for me.
Thank you.
question
for me. Thank you, appreciate it. Any other discussion from the district advisory board members? Anyone from the community want to weigh in? With that,
I actually agree with baseball.
it's okay, thank you. I'll open it up for further discussion and or motion from someone.
Good evening. My name's Andrew Barclay. I'm with the applicant Driven Brands.
Thank you. Okay, we did not know. Thank you, sir. Please make comments.
I just wanted to kind of address the sound issue. I know that's always a concern we have. I do appreciate you guys taking the time to, I know y'all have had a long meeting and taking time to hear us. I'll be trying to quick. We've done numerous sound studies on our car washes. Is obviously the dryer at the end of the tunnel is the loudest. And in this case, we are facing to the south. The parking spaces on the west side are the vacuum cleaners. So I'll talk about that in just a second. But regarding the blowers, in this case, they are pointing to the south. And in our sound studies, the loudest point is usually within 100 feet away from the tunnel. So in this case, toward the south. So the residents on the east won't be hearing the worst of it. And also, the sound studies show that when you get to 100 feet or more, it mixes with the ambient noise. In this case, we've got roadways both on the south and east side. So in normal operation, when you're on the other side of the highway or the road, you're going to be hearing the road noise more than the dryers. Now, regarding the vacuum cleaners, we use a central vacuum producer and not individual vacuum cleaners at each of the spots. And our central equipment is surrounded by an 8-foot masonry block wall to help further reduce the sound. And also the sound studies we've done on the vacuum equipment shows that just outside the enclosed wall, it's roughly the equivalent to a loud dishwasher at a home. So I just wanted to kind of clarify, just, that's always the two big issues that we get are the sounds from the equipment. And also regarding sound, the vacuum cleaners are shut down when we close at 7 or 8 p.m. Same thing, the tunnel's closed, the dryer's not in operation. So it's not like a 24-hour car wash or the gas station car wash where people can go any time of night.
Thank you.
Where on this site plan is that centralized vacuum?
If you look at the north end of the tunnel, there is a square rectangle just to the northwest of the corner.
Yep. And so that's a masonry block wall similar to a trash dumpster or something.
Correct, and it's 8 foot tall. And when we shut down in the evening, it's turned off and there's no continuous running of it overnight.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
What are the operational hours?
Typical hours are usually from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now, some locations vary throughout the country, but that's kind of our standard operating hours for the car wash.
Any other questions? Tim?
No question, I'm just changing my mind, I'm gonna sign a face on this, make a statement. I do want to go on record that these things, I have nothing against this car wash, but I have a noise issue in my neighborhood yeah, if somebody doesn't say we ought to do something to abate these noises a little better, then nothing's gonna get done, so. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah.
We need more car washes.
Chris?
I'd make a motion to approve this, I respect the noise complaint, but that's also right in the approach runway of McConnell Air Force Base and also very busy South Rock Road, so I don't think you're gonna hear that vacuum over the C-130, C-135s or the young airmen racing up and down Rock Road. I was in the Army, not the Air Force, but I know exactly what South Rock Road is like, so.
Duly noted.
I would make a motion to approve.
Chris has made a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Go all seconded.
Okay, Sam is gonna second. I have a feeling we're gonna probably have to count bodies on this one, so, Jennifer and Tracy, get ready. So we have a motion to approve and we have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Is that Tracy and Jennifer?
yes.
You're twinning. So all those opposed? Okay, so the motion passes 4-2, is that correct? And we do still have quorum, so, okay, thank you very much. Next is new business, CON 2023-00038.
I'm Bhumika Kundu again from the planning department. If we can move to the agenda. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for the live music and entertainment defined as nightclub in the city associated with hotel and restaurant uses on a property zoned Limited Industrial District. The site is 1720 North Webb Road, generally located northeast corner of North Webb Road and Waterfront Parkway. The site is 2.02 acres in size, zoned limited industrial and developed with a strip store center right currently. The applicant, along with the restaurant, intends to have a cigar patio on the property and indoor and outdoor music and entertainment. As per the site plan, the patio is located, if you go to the third site plan that's been provided, the third site, the next. Yes. The applicant, along with the restaurant, intends to have a cigar patio on the property and indoor and outdoor music and entertainment. As per the site plan, the patio is located on the south and southeast of the building and faces a vacant wooded parcel to the east and commercial offices south of the site. The need for conditional use at this location is due to the proximity of the single-family residential zoning to the west and the church to the north. Thank you. The subject site is located roughly 104 feet from the residential zoning to the west and roughly 100 feet from the church to the north. The supplementary use regulations of the Unified Zoning Code require a conditional use for nightclub in the city when it is within 300 feet of residential zoning, a church, or a place of worship. This conditional use permit does permit outdoor service of food and drink as an accessory operation of the establishment. The live music and entertainment proposed on the subject site shall conform to the supplementary use regulations, which are stated in the staff report. According to the site plan provided, the parking for the subject site is located primarily to the west of the existing building. There appear to be roughly 96 parking spots, and the parking standard for a nightclub in the city is 1 space for every 2 occupants. The nightclub in the city approximately has a seating arrangement of 167 occupants, so the parking availability meets the minimum requirements as well. The existing screening wall on the west on the residentially zoned parcels and existing shaded trees along the railroad to the north serve as required screening and landscaping. The proposed application is also in conformance with the community investment plan. The map identifies the area in which the site is located to be appropriate for new residential and employment mix. Based upon the information available at the time of the report, the staff recommends conditional use to be approved subject to conditions mentioned in the staff report. At the time of publication of this report, the staff has not received any public comment on this case. And with that, I will stand for any questions that you have for the staff.
Any questions for staff? Jennifer, Tracy, Aslan, or anyone?
This is not the whole building that they're gonna occupy, right? Just the end of it?
Yeah.
And
Get any,
Chester's Chop House.
No.
you didn't get any.
No public comment.
No public comment.
Does it is this specific to live music or just speaker?
Live music, especially when it is live music and entertainment, it triggers the nightclub in the city, which is mentioned.
And I would just make a quick comment, I'm editorializing a little bit, but I've been working with MAPD to try and get the language changed so it's not nightclub in the city, and that should be coming in front of City Hall. When we think of nightclub, we all conjure up images that this is not, and I'm not saying that to defend this or not defend this, but so yeah, nightclub in the city probably isn't.
It's the live music and
It's-
alcohol.
It's the live music and alcohol.
So I bring it up just because looking at the plan here, construction sheet A 3.0, there's no stage nor
Right.
seems to be any provision for where that will be. So my concern is, although it's worded that it's gonna be east of the building towards the wooded field,
That's
there's
the
nothing that
patio.
indicates that.
That's the outdoor patio that they are proposing for cigar patio. So, the
Would that be the live music out there as
agent
well?
is here as well, to give you more details on.
Thank you.
Yes, give us more details.
Good evening. I am a substitute consultant on this one, so details may be sparse, but it's a fairly simple and straightforward request. So yes, I'm sorry, it's Russ Avey, EWY, Baldwin Company agent for the applicants. And you're correct that the south tenant, roughly that little rotunda there, the round feature that you see in the aerial straight across to the east and south is the segment of that particular commercial building that'll have the restaurant that is seeking some outdoor live entertainment. And as we know, we have a wide spectrum of what outdoor live entertainment looks like, from Sandstone Amphitheater to Red Rocks to a person playing an acoustic guitar in front of patrons in this restaurant. So again, this isn't a live entertainment venue. I, as a consultant of land use over the last 28 years here in town, I can't appreciate council member Tuttle's comments on changing vernacular of the zoning code. I can't tell you how many event centers, teen centers, live nightclubs, all under, especially oriented businesses, all fall underneath that nightclub moniker. So again, and as staff stated in the staff report, lot line to lot line, we're roughly 100 feet from residential zoning to the north and to the east. But I think more critically, we are 750 feet from this use to the church itself, as well as over 400 feet from the very western tip of the patio to the closest residence to the west. Furthermore, if you're familiar with Waterfront Parkway, if you're traveling in the north lane of Waterfront Parkway and are passing this particular building, you'll find it difficult to even see the patio from that street some 30 feet to the south. So there again, it's nestled in probably arguably the most ideal location. We have a drainage way and natural feature to the east that's going to help dampen and absorb that sound, what sound there is. And again, you'll have to remember that this is a nice restaurant trying to provide some live ambient music, not a rock concert. So I'll stand and I know you've all had a long night, so I'll stand and answer any questions that I can.
Any questions for the applicant?
So I look at page A 2.0 and I don't see where this, where will they be set up? On the south side or on the east side?
It doesn't dictate that. It will be with, but per staff conditions, it will be located within that patio area. And actually, one of the site plans showed a little bit better outline of the existing patio. I believe it is page 7. I don't see so you'll see north is to your left. And you will see that outline of the exterior patio. That would be the location of that. But it doesn't dictate within the patio where the, say, acoustic guitar is set up, just that it has to be within that particular area.
So I have a restaurant on the other side of the concrete wall. Well, then. I live about 1,000 feet north of that wall. And I can hear the focus non-interrupted going on the patio outside the restaurant. It's been a little calmer this year because they're doing it illegally, there's ruckus about it. My problem isn't the guitars. The problem is the concussion. And it's not just because I'm a horn player. This is perfect. And it's hard for me to support this and be a planning guy like you. Again, it meets the standards in our regulations, but boy, the unintended consequences of these musical venues, and I know it's not a musical venue, give me some concern. And you can't allay that concern tonight, I know the rest. But I wanted the others to hear where I come from on that, because I literally live it with this situation.
Certainly, no, the only thing that I could offer to address that is, I think you stated it perfectly well. We are within the confines of the local regulations as it relates to this specific land use. And the best way to deal with it, not saying, of course, I would never ask anyone to vote a certain way. And certainly within the DAB's prerogative to recommend denial of this request, but I think a more salient point to some of these issues, whether you're talking about a car wash or outdoor music, would be to change the standards of the zoning regulation and ask planning and staff to begin the amendment process to unified zoning.
And just to follow up on that. That can be a future wish, but tonight we have what we have. So, I always have to remind, Dad, we're voting on what's the best use of the land with the laws that we have now, not the wishes of notification areas and such, right? So, and who gets notified, so.
Has this been considered by MAPC yet?
No, on Thursday.
Any other questions from Dad and Jennifer and Tracy, we know you're there?
I'm here to make. This may have already been addressed, but was there any comments, Becky, that you received on this issue?
I'm sorry if you didn't hear Jennifer. No, I have not received any public comment on this.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for clarifying.
What were the hours of this restaurant? Or is that even? Has that been?
Our staff report looks like 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, 12 a.m. Friday and Saturday.
That's the conditions that the staff recommends for approval due to the noise.
And we are agreeing with the staff recommendation.
Anyone from the public? Yes. Then if you come to the podium, please, and state your name and your. All the way to the end, we're gonna do it right.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your favorite thing about it? There you go.
Not this.
Duly noted. Your name and address.
Bonnie Atkinson,
Thank you.
12313 East Asbury Circle. My question about that is, I know that there wasn't any kind of notification around there, but did you talk to the people who live across the street? And I can't remember if it's the foliage or relevant, what's the people that are across the street from that?
Foliage.
The foliage?
Yeah.
It's not Willow Bend, we didn't know that. So was notification sent out? Yes, 200 feet. Yes, first day for that.
Yep. How did you send the notification?
We do, for this property, I think it was 200 feet around that property because it was.
300.
300 feet, yes, 300 feet
350.
around.
How did you know? I mean, through mail? Or
Yes,
did you
through-
walk?
There's mail
Through
and
mail.
site.
Oh, yeah.
The signage is posted on the property for the development application. That has to be put up on the property about 13 days ahead of the public hearing, as well as the notification is sent to 350 feet around that property. And that has been done through mail.
Okay, so you did send a notification to each one of those homeowners over there.
Yeah.
Because I know several people who live in there, and there's no way that they would go for that. I guarantee it.
Well, that notification, like you said, 350 feet, so just the houses within that, there's. I would
Well,
think
it's
that.
that
To the
would cover
owner
my
of record, goes to the owner.
Yeah.
If the full janitors are right.
I don't think they're renting.
No.
It came up in the last.
I know, so, yeah.
There likely weren't very many that were contacted, this 350-foot rule, is for property line to property line. And those are large lot properties.
Oh, they
that
sure are.
Very
They're
wide
huge.
and free. But whatever state statute required or city ordinance required, they were notified. It's just that there may not have been many who were notified.
There's probably one property in there. Because that one that looks like 3 different buildings, it's actually, that's one property. And they're all like that. So, yeah.
Good luck with that, guys.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Jim, you want to make any comments?
No, I'm just thrilled to be here.
We're glad you're here. Okay, we'll bring the discussion back to the desk.
I'm not gonna do a protest vote this time, so you know how I feel about it. I'm happy for zoning to look how we do the notification area, but I will make a motion that we approve since nobody.
That we approve.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
It's within the rules.
Chris has seconded.
However, Becky, I'd like to amend, make the motion to approve with the conditions from MAPD.
And this hasn't gone to MAPD yet.
Is that the recommendation here to
Oh,
approve?
from the, I'm sorry, MABC. I'm getting all my.
It has not.
Stuff.
Yeah,
It goes to MABC on Thursday. So you would like to make a substitute motion to approve with staff recommendations,
Correct, yeah.
okay?
I guess that's what, isn't that what this is? I could say
Yeah.
with approved. Okay.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
it is, so I, yeah.
So pretty much the same motion, right?
Not being facetious, Tracy, I just want to make sure I
Just
understood
make
what I
sure.
said.
It's been a long night.
No,
We're all on the same page. Tracy.
We're all on the same page,
Yeah.
Tracy. So we have a motion and we have a second.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
There's been absolutely no comment.
Absolutely no.
We haven't received any comments.
I haven't. Okay. So no further discussion. I will call the vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
aye.
Anyone opposed?
Me.
Sam is opposing?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get that for the record, Teresa?
That's 5 in favor, 1 opposed.
One opposed. Sam, no abstentions. All right, I know it's been a very long meeting, but I would like to have a question for Teresa, when she's at a good point. Thank you. So the next meeting, thank you, Russ, for being here. The next meeting, it says Wednesday, October 11th. Why is that?
Because Monday is Columbus Day.
Okay, just wanted to confirm.
Yes, Monday is Columbus Day.
Okay. Okay, so please note, and Teresa and I will do an exceptionally good job of reminding you all not to be here on Monday the 9th, but to be here on Wednesday, the 11th of October. Okay, so please, and for the record, and publicly noted, I also want to take a point of privilege and thank each and every one of you. I want to thank the community members who are here today, certainly, especially those who talked it out to the end. But also to the district advisory board members, and I'm sorry that there were some comments that were disparaging, but I hope you know that I tried to defend you and your volunteer spirit and what you do for Wichita, and I will always do that. So your service on this district advisory board means more to me than you could know, and I don't do a good enough job of expressing it along the way. So thank you for what you do, and with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All those in favor, so.
Sam, okay.
First and second, Sam got one in. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say bye, and you can stay. See you next month. Thank you, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Teresa. Can't wait to read these minutes.
Thank you.